All right, it's Monday, the one day of the week that I officially stream, even though I do stream a lot. Uh, they're typically unscheduled. Um, and we're going to talk about some games and whatever else strikes your fancy, really, or mine. For those of you who are always like, what the hell is he doing now? I printed out some. I think these are Shantax. They might be Biaki. I've got a couple of both, and I printed them out, and I'm gluing them to bases. And if you're like asking me why I keep printing out H.P. Lovecraft's creatures, I will answer, I don't know. It's just a thing that I like to do, even if I just set them up on my shelf and like stare at them. Of course, some of these, like these Shantax or the hunting horrors or whatever, could really very easily be used in D&D. As wyverns or any sort of creature like that. So, all right, let's see. Boom, boom, boom. And yeah, so I've got different poses. And now I remember these. No, it's not these guys. It's Biaki that. Oh, I got to reread it now. In the story, The Festival, where the guy goes to his old home where his people were from, and they go down a cave, and there's like a green fire and a river, and then these creatures arrive, and he's supposed to jump on the back of one and ride it to heaven only knows, really. But he refuses to, and he jumps in the river and runs. Um, yeah, one of these two things, I think it's those, is what we're talking about here. So generally they're not very difficult to paint, these guys. And they've been cured, but I'll probably, while they're on the base, put them on the thing and let them get cured some more. One thing about this extra tough water rinsable resin is that it doesn't feel like it's cured when it is. You know what I mean? It's like uncured resin figures. A lot of times they have kind of this. They're not smooth. You can't just glide your hand over them. These guys, you can put these guys in UV box for an hour, and they come out and they still kind of feel like they're not cured. It's actually kind of crazy. But all right. So, two of you out there, if you got any questions about anything, very few topics are off limits, but there are a few. If it's about gaming, it's definitely not off limits. Because I also, in addition to printing up the Lovecraft miniatures, printed a whole ton of shields for my orcs. Because I've got a bunch of these pig-faced orcs, and I want they come with their own shield, which looks like the one in the monster manual, but I want to kind of mix it up, so that there's a little variety amongst them. So yeah. So this is a Biaki, I think. Yeah, these are the ones that look like part corpse and part wasp and part bat and part bird. And yeah. In the Call of Cthulhu game, you can learn a spell that allows you to actually summon either of these creatures. And depending on, if you can control them or not, you can ride them through space, which is probably not a great thing because, any human that rides a Byakhee to, you know, the realm of Azathoth or something like that, it's probably never coming back. But you can do it in the game, literally, if your character learns the spells from Divernus Mysterion, or some scrap of the Necronomicon, or maybe Unspricken Colton. There's a lot of books out there that, if you read them and study them, there could be actual spells that your character, if they have enough power, can cast. Unfortunately, though, in the COC game, for those of you who don't know, you may not have enough power to cast a spell, because say it's a super powerful spell, right? Yes, Carl, I've heard about it, and not really super pleased, but also not super surprised. I mean, the thing people forget is Ukraine is actually two countries. It's like the west of Ukraine, and this is non-gamer, so I'll make it quick because I don't want to get too heavy into politics. But Western Ukraine, a lot of those people are Roman Catholic. They identify more as Polish Lithuanian, etc. Whereas Eastern Ukraine, from the Don River over, really, those people all speak Russian. They are ethnically Russian. They identify as Russian. So when all this stuff started, it was, Zelensky's rat-faced little ass has basically made the Orthodox Church illegal in Ukraine. And they have thrown nuns and priests in prison. So now President Trump is trying to work a deal out. And the reason there has been no deal and no peace is Zelensky. Because Putin will make peace. Unfortunately for Zelensky, it's going to cost him the whole Donbass region. That's just going to be the way it is. Why would the Russians settle for anything less than that when they absolutely occupy a quarter of Ukraine currently, and they're beating them drastically? There's still people out there that think the Ukrainians are winning. And I feel bad for those people, because it's like, where are you getting your news from, right? Like, the Ukrainian casualty figures are crazy. Not saying the Russians haven't lost tons of men, but the Ukrainians have lost 10 times more. And everything's getting destroyed. That's what President Trump keeps saying. We need to end this war. I was watching an interview with him today. He was talking to the president of El Salvador, who seems like a straight up mega Chad. And they asked him about Ukraine, and he actually referred to the war in Ukraine as a civil war. And that's accurate, because people forget that after the Maidan coup, the government in Kiev sent military units into the Donbass to basically put down the people of Donbass who didn't want to, be part of the NATO and all that, because they're Russian, and plus the Ukrainians made it against the law to speak Russian, and they started destroying Orthodox churches, and so that's just not good. That's not good. But yeah, it's a civil war, because the first war for 10 years, people don't talk about it, but like thousands of people died. And it was basically Donbass militia versus Ukrainian Nazis. Yeah. The Azov, they're Banderists. They're literally Nazis. Even though whether or not they say that they have Jewish members or whatever, it doesn't matter. They're Banderists. So the whole reason Russia went into Ukraine was basically to put an end to the slaughter of citizens civilians in the Donbass region. They were being shelled nonstop by Ukrainian forces from the Azov battalion. And we never should have got involved in that shit. One thing people need to learn is when two brothers start fighting, unless you're their mom or something, you don't get involved. Let them scrap it out. And the war would have been over very quick. Had we not interfered, the war would have been over very quick, and it would probably end exactly the same way it's going to end, in my estimation, which is Kiev is going to have to give up the Donbass region. That's all there is to it. And there's no way, short of nukes, which, Kiev doesn't have, and we're not going to use, to force Russia to not keep that region. There's just no way. I mean, and like I said, at this point, as Trump told Zelensky, when Zelensky decided to be a piece of shit at the White House, Zelensky's got no cards. That's what Trump even told the dude to his face. You got no cards. You have no bargaining chips. All you can do is run around the EU begging for equipment that you don't even have soldiers to use. I mean, they're recruiting 45-year-old men. Hey, left. I mean, I saw a video where they recruited a handicapped person. I don't know if he was autistic or had Down syndrome or whatever, but they literally threw a handicapped person on the front line.
Hey,
Leth, how you doing?
Good.
They are evil, Carbles. I would agree with that. They are evil. They want to have a state religion. They want to destroy orthodoxy. They want to make it where no one can speak Russian. I mean, they've suspended elections. The fact of the matter is, and this is another thing, I believe Trump called Zelensky a dictator. And that's correct. That's not to say that Vladimir Putin isn't a dictator.
How would that work, though? Because if they're not going to speak Russian, what would they go Polish or something?
Well, apparently they consider Ukrainian to be an independent language, even though it's literally just a dialect of
more like a dialect. Yeah, that's more of a dialect than an actual language.
Yeah, that would be like the South going to war with the North, and one of the South's demands be that everyone has to have a Southern accent. and use the words we use. So
Southern
instead
vernacular.
of saying use guys, you got to say yuns. I mean, it literally is that close, the two languages. So why do that? Because the guy's a dick. He wanted the war and he got it, and now hundreds of thousands of young, innocent Orthodox men have been murdered, Christians. And nothing has changed. And nobody's talking about like the 60,000 Orthodox Christians that were all murdered in Syria either this last couple months. Because, of course, the government that we and whoever backed to kick Assad out, they're a bunch of Muslim fundamentalists. So the first thing they start doing is killing Orthodox Christians and Druze. Not Jews, Druze, which is apparently a type of Islam, but whatever. I don't know much about that. And do you hear that on the news at all? No. But Leth, did you game last night?
No, I had to go to Easter dinner.
Yeah, my Easter's a little bit.
Well, we had we had a pretty early Easter dinner also.
Yeah, but I'm just saying Orthodox Christmas and Easter are like a week or two after. Sometimes it changes, believe it or not. Sometimes Christmas will be on December 7th and sometimes it's December 8th. It just depends because of how they figure out whatever, But it's in January for us. Not that it matters. It doesn't. I hope you had a good Easter dinner. We played We played OSC for like 4 hours. We actually ran later than we usually do because I work with a bunch of people who are professionals or construction workers, which are still professionals. I mean, you got to know what you're doing to operate heavy equipment and, or be an electrician, right? So they got to be up at 6 o'clock in the morning to get ready to go to work their asses all day in the hot Florida sun, right? But the game was so whatever. When I said, we're going to end it here, they're like, really? We can keep going just a little while longer. And I was like, no, I don't think so. But the lead up is basically they're going up a mountain trail and they got ambushed by a blue dragon. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, I set the miniatures up. They're walking side by side up the trail, like 4 deep. And the dragon landed right in front of them in this opening where 4 trails converge and shot a lightning bolt right through all of them. And I told them, and at that point I said, but we'll pick it up next week. And they're like, what? And they couldn't blame me for the dragon because one thing I've been doing to keep players more involved in the game is when it comes time to roll for a wandering monster check or something like that, I'll pick a player and be like, hey, roll a dice 6 for me. And in this particular case, somebody rolled the 1, which means yes, encounter. And I told my wife, roll that die 20. And she rolled a 19. And I look on the monster encounter chart, 19 blue dragon. Like, okay. And they're like, shouldn't we fight it out tonight so that we'll all have a week to make new characters? And I'm like, yeah, no, we'll do it next week. And man, they were
also don't count yourselves out yet. You haven't fought it. You might have a chance.
I think they can win. I mean, the average level of the party is like 7.
I mean, I've been surprised. We've defeated a dragon we probably really shouldn't have.
Well, I mean, I don't cheat. So
my DM doesn't either. We just got extremely lucky.
Well, yeah, luck will save a man as often as not, to quote Bolvine, when from that is a reference from the 13th Warrior, guys. But it's still true. There's 2 clerics in the group, a human cleric that's almost level 8, and a dwarf cleric that's almost level 6, so level 5. There's a dwarf warrior who is absolutely a badass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this guy's got an 18 strength. He's wearing magic plate armor. He's got a spear and a shield. So, and then there's 2 rangers, a thief acrobat, 2 illusionists that are dual class gnomes, a thief illusionist and a fighter illusionist.
Oh, so nice. That sounds fun.
Yeah, and so yeah, it's an interesting group, mostly human, but 2 gnomes and an elf, and actually mostly not human. 2 gnomes, 1 elf, 2 dwarves, and 3 humans. Yep.
Yeah, so no, mostly not human. There's quite a few dwarves, gnomes, elves.
Well, in Greyhawk, especially if you're in the Principality of Ulick.
Yeah, you're gonna find
make up like 40% of the population.
Yeah.
So, and the ruler of the Principality of Ulick is a dwarf. Whereas in the county of Ulick, elves are seen, and there are tons of half elves because the elves and the humans have been, intermixing there. So I see you got a new avatar.
Yeah, the restream kind of reset my stuff, so I had to redo it. So I just put young Dinkin in there.
What's that from? I don't know.
Freerin?
Is that Hinkle the hero or whatever?
No, that's Dinkin from the Mage Association. Mage
stuff. Okay, yeah. Where they had to go through the dungeon and everything.
Yeah, it's just his younger self whenever he was telling his stories and.
Right.
reminiscing about his past.
That's pretty late on. That's why I was confused because
Yeah.
I mean, well, Eisen, you got Hinkle, who is a lesser known character. I'm kind of wondering why you didn't go with Himmel.
I wouldn't be Himmel anyway. I'd probably be Heiter.
The corrupt priest.
Yes.
He really wasn't corrupt. He just liked to drink.
Yeah, he just liked to drink.
That's all. It's not like he was out there preaching heresy or anything.
He just like
enjoyed a drink now and again every day.
Every day.
And in the end, I mean, you got to admit, I mean, he was a good guy. He saved Fern's life.
Yep.
And even though he used trickery, he tricked Farron into taking Fern on as a apprentice.
Yeah, I like that one. It's like, she couldn't be
he
any
literally
older than
forced
16.
himself
It's like,
to stay alive long enough.
Actually, she's 106. She's like, really? It's like, yes.
It's like the guy made himself stay alive by force of will until Fern was old enough that Fern would have to take her.
Yeah.
It's like, that's a tricky cleric right there.
I like him though. But no, I just had this one.
How could you not? Anybody that's watched the show will have a positive view of him. Because he's just a nice guy, really. You know?
Yeah, he's a nice guy, and I think the jokes were kind of funny with him.
Yeah, he's cracking the jokes. Whereas my favorite non-Farron character or non-Fern character is Himmel. But Himmel had his own problems. He was very conceited. Because they talk about that when they plant the blue flowers around a statue.
Actually, if you want to talk about that, my favorite main party characters really has to be that one guy who made clones of himself. Just because of the audacity of him. He literally took a test without even being there.
Yeah, that was kind of his mage thing.
He called it out, and he's like, "If my real buddies need it, I'm right here." And she's like, "No, you're not. You're still in your hometown."
Yeah, that guy didn't even show up to the mage test. You just sit. Well, I mean, in D&D, there is a spell where you can clone yourself.
True.
That exists.
Yep.
What I need to find out is if the monk class has been added to OSE Advanced in one of the Carrion Crawler, whatever magazines they put out. Because the guy playing the acrobat, when we played AD&D before we switched over to OSE, he played a monk. And then we switched over to OSE, and there is no monk. So he went through the whole book and decided that the thief acrobat was the closest thing to a monk.
Yeah.
But if they actually have added a monk, because those magazines they put out, they add all kinds of new races and classes.
They probably have it. They probably do. I'd say they probably could eventually have it.
Yeah, it's kind of a thing because in Greyhawk, unlike a lot of fantasy worlds, monks actually feature pretty heavily. Like Kung Fu monks.
Here's the thing, though. If you really wanted to actually have that class without, with a more fantasy tone to it, technically, with the martial arts in the, in the medieval period, you could technically do that. Just have to rename the class.
Well, no, this is AD&D.
I know,
the monk exists in AD&D.
I know, but if you wanted to still have it in a more medieval, like a traditional medieval setting, instead of having like it be like, oh, there's Eastern fantasy with it.
Right.
A lot of the martial arts that you see in like the old pictures mirror what we see as a monk done in D&D, but with
because the original monk, which was a optional class, that's why the monk is out of alphabetical order at the very back, was based on a Shaolin monk.
Yeah.
Like you got like,
well,
as you leveled up, your unarmed hand damage did more damage. and you got abilities like you could basically almost put yourself into hibernation.
What I'm
At like
saying
ninth
though,
level, you got the quivering palm, which meant you hit somebody with the palm strike and they got to make a save versus death or die.
what I'm saying actually is that in like Europe, there were actual like training methods, or at least
Well, I mean, the
texts that showed
French
that.
had Sabat.
Sabat, yeah, and and,
That's
and they
kind of
it was
cool.
like training with different weapons in kind of unusual ways.
Yeah.
Like you'll have them training with swords, even unarmed.
Yeah, I've seen the training stuff for like the Grossmesser,
Yeah.
which apparently was super popular in the German states at a
But
time.
one of my favorite ones though was probably this one where if you don't have anything but a dagger, you throw your cloak at the enemy and just start charging them.
Well, the Grossmesser, because it was only had one edge and all that, according to the German law, was considered to be a knife, and it was legal for any citizen to own a knife. Even though some of these things had 40-inch blades and you wielded them two-handed,
Really,
because
really big knife. Yes.
yeah, because the sword makers guild got mad that the knife makers guild was making swords, so they went to the king and they're like, "Hey, WTF, bro? We're the sword makers guild. We're the only ones that should be able to make swords." And so the king passed that edict. And then the knife makers guild's like, okay, what is a knife? And they decided it was a single-edged weapon, etc., etc. And so the knife maker guild was just like, all right. And they start cranking out these things as great weapons.
Giant's knife.
Yeah, yeah. That's what Grossmesser actually means, because gross, I'm saying it wrong, I know, is German for great. So it would translate basically to great knife. And because they use great the same way we would say large. And yeah. So yeah. They freaking you can buy them from Cold Steel for like $190.
Not
And I
bad.
mean, not like these fake bullshit from Pakistan swords that'll bend in half because they're made out of shit.
Yeah.
These things are like 440 steel, designed for use. And yeah, the Grossmesser is one of the cheaper ones. I actually wanted to buy a Norman arming sword, but that means talking to my wife and justifying spending almost $300, and
I almost went and bought a replica Kentucky long rifle.
you told me.
Yeah.
I bought a shirt. I should show you sometime. A lot of people, I think this shirt would piss off, but it shows a bunch of Confederate soldiers and they got the battle banner, like one of them's holding the flag. And if you look on the flag, it says Kentucky or 6 Kentucky. And then it's got all the battles they fought in wrote on the flag, because it was part of the Orphan Brigade, the 6th Kentucky Cavalry or something. Cult of Athena is a solid source for battle-ready swords. I have not checked them out, but cool. I know when I was in the SCA, there were a couple of companies in Eastern Europe that were really economical if you wanted to actually buy a late medieval, early Renaissance, like plate armor. All you had to do is send measurements to them and money in. After however long, they would send you back this highly polished, freaking beautiful, Maximilian plate or whatever. But since when I was in the SCA, I always depicted a Gallo or a Romano Celt. I would never have wore plate mail anyway. I wore actual protective armor under chainmail. And because chainmail does not, I can tell you right now, games that make blunt weapons do more damage versus people in chainmail are realistic. Because in the SCA, we fight with rattan wood swords, and they're solid and they hurt. Like you could break somebody's rib or collarbone if you're not, careful, or if you want to, and their armor sucks, right? So I would actually wear a rigid armor and then the chainmail over the rigid armor, and then a surcoat, and then a big leather belt, like a weightlifting belt that had brass squares riveted through it that had designs on it to protect my, kidneys. And then my helmet, I had a gorget that I wore, but I had like a German style Spangen helm with like the big nose guard and everything. And it had a chainmail Aventel built onto it. So when I put it on, it was just like you couldn't see my neck. It was just heard friends that are into HEMA. Yeah, HEMA, I've never done it. It seems like it would be dangerous since, I mean, even though those are blunt swords they're using, those dudes are freaking swinging. You know what I mean? It seems like that's the kind of thing that you could easily get a finger crushed completely off if you went for a block or a parry and misjudged. And I mean, a blunt freaking slab of steel, if it catches you right, it could take a finger off or something. So, I mean, I've seen people get all effed up in SCA too, though. When I went to Mississippi's Gulf War, I seen a person, their femur bone had a compound fracture and came out of their leg. And they had to be air flighted by a helicopter out of the battlefield straight to a hospital because a femur break is really bad. And there's always the chance if you break a femur that you might have cut or nicked the femoral artery, the bone. And if the bone nicked that femoral artery, you literally have minutes before you are past tense, to quote Casual Geographic, before you're on a shirt. You know what I'm saying? Because the femoral artery is about as big as my thumb. And if that joker gets ruptured in any way, cut, stabbed, whatever, you will bleed out so quick that, if you don't get to the hospital immediately where they can give you blood transfusions and try and sew that bastard up, you're going to die. That's just the way it is. But I've seen people get hurt pretty bad. I mean, I've had to hurt people, not permanently, but sometimes you fight a guy in SCA and you call them rhino hides. And that's because it's a gentleman's sport. If you get hit solid, you're supposed to call the hit. And then you lose, right? If somebody cracks you really good on the head or somewhere, you accept it. Okay, this guy beat me. But some people just don't want to do that, no matter how good of a hit you get on them. And when that happens, that's when you start aiming for groin shots and collarbones and shit like that. Like you find wherever they don't have any armor, armpits are great because they're next to impossible to armor an armpit. And that's when you start dancing with them. You get them to raise the sword. And when they raise the sword, hit them right in the freaking armpit. They'll call that because they're going to have to go sit down. I was fighting this female one time and she was rhino hiding it. And I was going easy on her. I had a rattan wood straight sword, long sword with a 36-inch blade. And so you tape to show where the edge is. And she just would not. Like, I kept hitting her and she kept being like, nah. So I finally just put my shield on her so she couldn't see anything because I had a big kite shield. And then after I pushed her back a little bit, I stepped back and I swung as hard as I could, an overhand swipe like that, hit her in the side of the head and creased her helmet. She called that. And plus, that's her fault. I mean, if I can crease your helmet, you need to get a better helmet. You know what I mean? Because that means that helmet was probably made out of 18 gauge. And technically in SCA, you're supposed to have 16. gauge still. What edition? I am playing Old School Essentials Advanced. And I was just mentioning, I don't know if you heard it, that Old School Essentials Advanced does not come with a bard. Or not bard, a monk. And I'm wondering if I have the four Carrion Crawlers magazines. I'm wondering if there's like a fifth one out there that I don't have that added the monk, because they added damn near everything else.
Or maybe somebody homebrewed one, but then you have to be careful with that.
I mean, if I got desperate about it, which I don't have to, because the player's perfectly happy playing his acrobat.
Yeah.
I could always just use the AD&D rules, or use the Beckme Mystic, which is just basically the monk. But in Beckme, they called it a mystic. I don't know why. But yeah, OSE. And the main reason I play OSE, and I tell people this, is because of the layout of the book. That is it. It's not necessarily that I think OSE is the best thing going or anything like that. I mean, the game rules are basically Beckme D&D. Why am I not playing Baptism of Fire? My players did not want to play it. As a matter of fact, what happened, Bruce, which links up there, is a lot of my players said they play D&D to escape our world. So really the last thing they wanted to do is play a role-playing game that's set in our world. You know. So, yes, I was heartbroken. So then I was like, fine, we'll take a vote. We'll see what everybody's most interested in playing. And we have our own private little chat. It's just me and my players. And I put out a poll, and I was like, if you could only play one game for the rest of your life, what would it be? And right down the line, it was like AD&D. So I put out and said, look, I don't really want to run AD&D, but I will run OSE Advanced. And they're like, super. And then they were like, hey, we played this like a couple years ago. I remember we played it for a long time. We still got our old characters. And I looked in the folder and I was like, yes. Can we play them? And I was like, do you want to, or do you want to start over? And they're all like, no, hand me my player. So my wife got her 7th level cleric, and you heard the rest. And now they are facing down a blue dragon in the Yatul Mountains and hoping not to die. Yeah, Bruce, that's what we were talking about last night. They had an encounter, which I had one of the players roll, and my wife rolled the 19 on the encounter chart, and that was blue dragon. And this was late. So I basically dropped the blue dragon in front of them and said it was using its lightning breath and like strafing them. And then when everybody's like, holy shit, I was like, okay, let's end it here because, you know, it's really late. And all of my players are like, what? They're like, are you kidding? Like, no, man. They're like I said, one of them's like, well, how will we know if we need to roll up new characters for next week? I was like, you'll find out next week. Plus, next week, there'll be an advantage for him. One of the players can only play every other week because of his job. So next week, he'll be in. Now, what?
Hey, that's good.
Yeah, I don't know what a 6 level. No, he's 5 ranger and something thief. He's like a dual class ranger thief, half elf or some shit. I'm not really sure what he's going to be able to do about it.
He could be bait.
Yeah. Okay, Bruce. I mean, whatever. It's Monday. I talk to people actually every day, but Monday especially. Yeah, maybe he can be bait. I don't know. I might bit smelly. Yeah, I've been there. I remember one time I was, we were tapping a sewer main, and it was gravity fed, so it wasn't pressurized, But when we tapped it, the piece we cut out, which when you tap it means you're cutting out like a 4-inch circle hole so that you can put a line from a house in, right? And that thing dropped in the mud, which was made out of dirt and sewer water. And because I was down drilling, it hit me right in the face when the sewer water splashed up, like in my face, a little in my mouth. I was like, ah. It's a good thing I got immunized against hepatitis and hepatitis B. Kind of surprised your players didn't line up for CNC. Wasn't even mentioned. And they've played that before. Nope, it was AD&D all the way down the line. And so the, what do you call it, Leth? Help me out here. When two people debate until they come to a agreement. The compromise.
Oh, compromise, yeah. Okay.
The compromise was OSC Advanced. And they're good with it. I mean, plus OSC Advanced, the character, I mean, you literally, if you have a character, every rule you need is on your sheet. You don't even have to open a book. It's like, if you're playing a spellcaster, there's a sheet that has every spell you could possibly learn, and above each level, how many per day you get as you level up. So it's like, and then it has like a one sentence that dodge splatter, but was in the a one sentence line that tells, like, under Cure Light Wounds, it says, heal 1d6 plus 1 damage. Boom. What about AD&D they enjoyed so much? Their characters. Basically, their characters. And the AD&D game was set in my homebrew world. The OSC game is set in Greyhawk because the characters decided they found a couple of portals. Hey, we're working with portals. And they ended up going through a couple of different prime material planes before ending up in Greyhawk. And then they got in a fight with a bunch of
Hey,
orcs.
I'm going to have to go. I'll see you.
I'll catch you, lad. They got in a fight with a bunch of orcs, etc., etc. And the long and short of it is, now they can't remember where the portal was because it was deep in a cave, and all, like, the entryway was concealed by tree roots and all this and that. And so they're like, well, I guess we're stuck in this world now. And yeah, that's kind of what it is. That's kind of how it be. So but anyway, the gnomes heard that there might be a group of gnomes living in the Yatil Mountains. So they've decided to go find them. But while they were journeying from the Grand Duchy of Jief and across the Grand March, they've been talking to people, and they've heard rumors that there used to be a witch that lived in those mountains. That summoned demons and stuff like that. So the dwarf characters are like, screw those gnomes. Let's find that witch's tomb. You know what I mean? But it's anyone's guess how it's going to go. Maybe they will go after the witch. Maybe they'll find the gnomes. Maybe the gnomes will be friendly to them. Maybe they'll have to fight the gnomes. Yep. I hear you, Bruce. You never know, because when they meet the gnomes, depending on how they behave, they're going to have to make a reaction check. And so if they show up and start acting like a bunch of jerks, these gnomes are going to tell them to beat it. You know what I mean? They might make a special a special whatever for the gnomes in the party, but the dwarves and humans and the elf, they're going to be told to get the shit out of here or eat a bunch of crossbow bolts. And And that'll be that, you know. Don't know how to explain it. You look like an interesting character. I am an interesting character. I am a level 9 paladin. Um, Janet. Hey, Janet. How you doing? Bruce is getting ready to join me in like 10 minutes. He's just washing his job off right now. Apparently, he had a close encounter with some stuff at his work. So, you know, I'll let him explain it. The link's in the chat somewhere. But the tea drinker Trobos. I mean, should I assume that the tea drinker is from England? I don't know, though, because I know Russians hardly ever drink water. They drink a lot of tea. I know that because my grandma was that way. Like, I don't know if I ever seen her drink water, but it was always tea. She had one of those, I forget what they're called, but one of those big things that you actually build a fire in. Like it sits on a table and you put a little fire in it. I am in a bubble bath. Well, that's an image. I hope your bubble bath is relaxing and awesome. I am trying to remember what color Venger was painted. I might have to go to another screen real quick and type in Venger because I have the 3D printed Venger miniature. But I know it's red and black, but I'm not sure exactly like the colors. I've already painted Warduke, but okay. Apparently his lower robes are gray and his wings are black and his upper clothes are red and I don't know if that's supposed to be a cape or something, but it's black. And his shoes are red. All right, that'll be easy. That'll be easy to paint. Just a few colors, right? Gray, red, black. All right. I think Bruce is being sarcastic. Yeah, she's in a bubble bath. I should be like, well, that's not an excuse not to have your camera on. Yeah, not really though. YouTube will freaking, well, they can't demonetize me, but they'd probably ban my ass if that happened. You know, like even when I'm showing off my miniatures, if I have miniatures that are too racy, I can't show them off on YouTube because they'll get mad. You know, like I've got a Slaanesh Keeper of Secrets, a custom one that I 3D printed. I can't show that thing off. I mean, because you can see boobies with nipples, and YouTube would freak the hell out about it, you know? So it is what it is, man. And I don't mind because I'm getting to where I kind of hate Facebook because every time I go to Facebook, it's just like some half naked woman walking around in high heels and barely anything else. And I'm like, I don't want to see this. I didn't come here for this bullshit. All Facebook rules are now is softcore porn. And it's usually like some chick that's mid at best, you know? Yeah. Yeah, Janet can join Twitch and become a hot tub streamer. That was a thing for a minute. Just a bunch of hot chicks sitting in a hot tub talking shit and talking to the people who were paying lots of money to watch them sit there and drink in a hot tub wearing bikinis. And then they got in trouble, but I think then they brought it. Twitch is really like the Mos Eisley of online social media. It is a den of scum and villainy. James, yeah. Don't blame me. I'm not trying to give anybody any ideas to do anything bad. You know? My idea is that everyone should remain pure and chaste until they're married. I mean, after that, go buck wild, but until then, keep that shit good, you know? But no one's going to listen to me, so I'm just going to go on with my life. But yeah, I think the AD&D thing, though, getting back to Echo, I think the whole reason most of them were like AD&D was just because they've got experience with it, you know. Like at one point, I decided to run them through a bunch of classic AD&D modules, and we used AD&D so that they would get the full experience, you know, because a lot of my players started with 3rd edition, so they had never played TSR D&D. So, you know, we made AD&D characters, and I ran them through some of the more common AD&D adventures, like Deep Dwarven Delve and stuff like that. And then later, I bought OSE, and I decided to convert all the characters to OSE. And we did, and there was some whining, moaning, and gnashing of teeth, but it happened. And then we played with OSE for like another year and a half. And actually, the only thing that stopped the game, when I say year and a half, I have to amend that and correct myself, because COVID came out. You know, C-19 hit, and a couple of my players are, let's just say, they align more on the left than I do, and they believed everything that they were told. So when the news started telling them, you know, wear 3 masks, stay at home, don't invite anybody over, blah, 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 they did that. And it kind of killed the game, because a few of these guys were like very pivotal members of the game. You know what I mean? And like half the group bought into the bullshit. So, you know, I was like, well, okay. I mean, you know, whatever. People do what people do, right? And so I just put the characters in a folder, and the few people who remained, we played West End game Star Wars for a while. That's when I went through my phase where I was running like a different game every month. Like 1 month it was Star Wars, and 1 month it was Shadowrun 2nd edition, and 1 month it was whatever. And I just kept. Did you ever see the images of people swimming in the ocean on the beach wearing? The stupidest thing was when they're like, you got to wear masks, but then you go to a restaurant and they seat you, and as soon as you sit down in the bench, you can take your mask off, which is like, what is it about restaurant tables and benches that forms a force field that stops airborne viruses? Nothing made sense. It was, you know what? You know how they name ages? One day in the far future, they're going to call that whole period the stupid ages. Like on Futurama, they're going to be like, this was the stupid ages, when corrupt medical people were constantly saying stupid shit and morons were believing them. I mean, I know this is probably evil of me to say, and I apologize, and hopefully God will forgive me, but I got so frustrated with the C-19 bullshit that I started wishing it was Captain Trips. And if you don't know what Captain Trips is, that was the virus that hit in the book and movie The Stand. I literally started saying, if everybody's going to act this way, maybe I wish this virus would wipe out 99.9% of humanity, even if I'm one of them, just so that I could stop being exposed to this stupidity, you know? But that's not a good thing. Wouldn't suggest anybody agreeing with that behavior. That's pretty bad behavior, honestly. Pretty shameful to wish for, the extinction of most humanity, but that's how upset I was. And here's what makes it even worse. The main reason I was that upset is because my role playing game got all screwed up. So that's some nerd rage right there, when like players won't show up because they're afraid of the C19. So you start being all like, God, I wish this shit was as bad as people think it is, and you try to explain stuff, they don't listen. Like I remember my one bro who was an otherwise incredibly genius level kind of guy. And I was explaining to him, the actual facts, like, it's not basically his chances of getting taken out by this shit are about the same as his chances of getting ate by a shark in his own bathtub. And he just wasn't hearing it, man. He was not having it. He's like, oh no. And I'm just like, dude. And he's like, nope. And I was like, okay. And that's basically, that's pretty much the whole story right there. But my favorite beach going incident was when the one guy snuck out at night and built a mannequin on the beach that looked like he was fishing. And then a bunch of cops ran out there to, I guess, arrest the guy. Yeah, but the second wave is not from C19, it's from the C19 medications. So I've heard people like Alex Jones and whatever say that probably more people will die from the RNA stuff than the actual illness itself. So, man, it annoys me. And I know that's pretty selfish, Everybody's running around terrified that they're getting ready to get taken out by the boomer remover. And my chief concern is that my OSC advanced game is getting wrecked because half of the players won't show up because they're so terrified by, it's like you watch mainstream media too much. You believe them. And that's why you're the way you are, It's like, don't believe them. They're lying. They didn't listen, most of them. And now, in the end, I am vindicated is the word I would use. Vindicated. Because it turns out I was right. The CDC and all of the other crazy people. Here's the thing. C19, I think I might have gotten it. Now, I didn't get a jab at all, but I think I might have gotten it, but I couldn't tell if I got it or if I just had the flu for like 3 days, And that was pretty late on when they were worried about the Omicron variant. Yeah, I caught a flu for like a couple of days, but, I just OD'd myself on freaking vitamin C and laid in bed for a while and let my wife take care of me. And, literally a couple of days later, I was right as rain. What's up, homie?
How you been?
Well, since the last time you've seen me, I've been murdered, I guess, about 20 times in the game I'm playing.
I haven't played any games in the last like 4 days. I just haven't had a need for it.
Right. Well, I'm that guy that if a game is super hard and challenging, that's what interests me. So, ran OSC last night. You probably heard most of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at the very end of the night, I had my wife roll for a wandering monster, and she rolled an encounter. So I looked in the book and had her roll on the encounter chart, blue dragon. So I just said a blue dragon comes screaming out of the sky at you guys lightning flashing out of its mouth and running right through your whole group from the front to the back, because they're all on a pathway in the mountains, walking, side by side and like 4 deep. And we've already rolled the damage, and but they haven't done their saves. I told them just to wait. We'll do saves next week. Which they were all like, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, it's late. Some of the players have to be up at like 6 a.m. to be out in the hot sun, toting blocks and shit, operating heavy equipment." But I was really proud of myself because I left them on such a effed up cliffhanger, One of the players are like, "Why don't we do the combat tonight? At least then we'll know if we got to make new characters." I was like, "Nah, if you guys die, it won't take you long to make new characters next week." They're just like, "Damn it." Right?
Works.
Yeah. Here is what's really going to damn, I think I'm fighting off some kind of upper respiratory thing.
That's not cool.
Well, I've dosed like I said, I take vitamin C and zinc and drink plenty of fluids, and it works for me.
What's your favorite vitamin C?
My wife buys us Airborne.
Okay. I've got some of that.
I mean, I really shouldn't be drinking orange juice because, I mean, it's basically pure sugar. So, hey,
Hey,
what's
how's
up,
it going, gents?
Pretty good.
It's going. We were just discussing the game I ran last night.
What'd you run?
Various other things.
What did you run?
OSC Advanced, the same characters as from a year and a half ago. Or whenever before COVID broke out, actually.
Oh, it's been a dormant campaign.
Yeah, because half of the players were so afraid of C19 that they wouldn't show up. So I just put all the characters in a folder. And then when they said, "Hey, we would want to play AD&D," I compromised and said, "I'll run OSC Advanced." And they're like, "Well, okay." And then they're like, "We'll use our old characters." And I'm like, "Sounds good to me. We'll pick up right where we left off." And I knew that because I have these little notepads I buy, and I'm constantly taking notes, like the names of NPCs and stuff. So I knew exactly where they were and exactly what they'd been up to. And from there, they decided to head over to the Kingdom of Bissell because we're in Greyhawk, and go up into the Yatil Mountains looking for a community of gnomes they heard about.
What you should have done is, since they took a year-long break for COVID, you should have given them all the plague.
Right? Make a con check or say burst disease.
You have the Mystic Coof.
It turns
Damn
out
it, you're not the only one.
Are really jacked up.
I TPK'd my party on Saturday.
Oh my goodness.
Campaign's still going. They died in a town.
That's why the name changed.
Yeah.
Because in the morning, the name was like Assault on the Dark Citadel or something like that. Yeah. And then I watched it and I was like, okay. And then later I watched it and the name of the game was totally different. I was like, all right, whatever. I mean, but now I know why it happened because Brucey Bruce was like, "You're all dead."
They died.
It happens.
I tried to run my game last night. I freaking restream just wigged out on me. I wasn't able to get it running, so I wound up having to cancel. I was really pissed. This is coming off a cancellation before too, so it's been a month now. We haven't played.
Every now and then, Restream will mute me for no reason.
Bear had that happen to him yesterday. I wonder if you guys use the same browser.
I am using.
I think he uses
the basic browser.
He's a Mac. He's a Mac user, so he's on Safari.
Oh, I think he uses Brave.
Yeah, and I use Internet Explorer, whatever. whatever the one that come with the computer is.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
do,
an E.
Firefox.
And you click on the E and
Yeah, I just had a Windows update recently, and that borked a whole lot of stuff.
Brucey Bruce is his rap name.
Yeah.
That's right. That dude ran deep in the streets up in Chi-Town. You don't want to mess with him. See,
Yeah, I hate when
don't.
that happens, especially in the middle of a big thing, because they're like in the middle of a battle, and it's going to be like over a month. And plus, we were going to do it next weekend. Then I realized it was Easter next Sunday. So
We're going to play next Sunday because it's not my Easter.
oh, that's true.
But or maybe we won't, and it depends. Like some of the people we game with, sometimes they throw like dinner parties at their house. And it's like a situation where all of the people get together and go over there and everybody just brings a hot dish, you know, and they cook ham or whatever. And then we just bullshit around and eat until we can barely walk. And yeah. So they're the people that babysat my dog while I went to Alabama.
Ah, cool.
And he loves them. He absolutely adores them. I mean, not as much as he likes my wife. I mean, she will forever be the sun in his sky, but they have a little dog too. So he didn't feel like super stressed out because he was playing with the little dog, and they got some teenage kids that were constantly wanting to cuddle him. And so he being there turned into being a huge hit. You know what I mean? And which is good for us because occasionally how our family is scattered all over the damn place. On occasion, we have to go places. And in this case, we would have brought him, but we're going to my niece's wedding and she owns like a bunch of German Shepherds. And I was like, no.
They're a handful. We fostered one for a little while here. They are freaking nuts, those things.
I love German Shepherd dogs.
Yeah, that's what my mom's got right now.
They're so much better than a freaking Belgian Malinois. No offense to you Belgian Malinois fans, but you have a dog that does nothing but just chew. He'll bite the air if he's bored.
Mm-hmm.
And don't be around them when they're bored because they're problematic. I hate that word, but that's so accurate with them.
Well, by problematic, you mean that they're hyper aggressive.
Yeah. Plus, when has ever a Belgian beaten a German?
Not that I can remember. The Malinois, even though it looks like a German Shepherd, smaller and a little lankier, but also like freaking on crack. Bruce is right about that. Hungar had one that he gave to his daughter. And that dog loves his daughter, but he is on crack or meth or something because he just is constantly like, you know, the mailman don't even want to go into their yard. Even though he's inside, he can't get out. He just freaks out so hard that he, you know, UPS and shit's all like, I don't, you know, if that thing gets out, it's going to kill me, you know. And it's just in there chewing on the glass, trying, you know.
My favorite dog ever had was a Border Collie. Those are amazing dogs.
Yeah, Border. I mean, I'm a Pomeranian.
You got to keep them busy. But
I've got my Pomeranian. We walk around. We play. He's got a good personality. He might be dumb as a sack of hammers, but I don't care. The only negative thing about him is that he is a fan of his own voice. But he probably gets that.
We have a black-mouthed cur here is like that. He just barks constantly. And he's really well trained for the most part, but we can't get him to lay off the barking.
I'm a big fan of black-mouthed curs.
They're awesome dogs.
They really are. If you've got like a cattle, if you have like a lot of young kids, that black-mouthed cur integrates with the family and becomes the best protector. Just from what I've dealt with.
That's a good dog.
They're great dogs.
Yeah, it sounds like a goodest boy to me.
I wish I had the space for a black-mouthed cur. God.
But
Yeah, fortunately, we have a nice big
yeah,
yard.
growing up, we always had pit bulls.
Those are cool dogs. They're dumber than rocks. Is my only issue with pit bulls. They're just stupid.
Well,
mean.
you got to get the right one. That's really the issue. It's like if you get a pit bull from a disreputable breeder that's selling you some kind of crazy inbred, red-nosed pit, American pit, don't be surprised when it bites your face off or kills all the cats or whatever it does.
Yeah.
Because
We have one that's it's like pit bull and hound, but he's like the biggest like love bug on earth.
that is the other side of the pit bull. If you get a good pit bull from a reputable breeder and the pit bull's bloodline is not all effed up and whatever, they're just snuggle bugs.
Yeah, he
you know
loves
what
the
I mean?
cats. He flea bites them all, and they actually go up to him to do it.
Oh, yeah.
They'll just come lay down in front of him. Give him a little dog massage.
Yeah, I mean, my oldest daughter's had this pit bull for damn near 10 years now. And it's just a giant baby. You know what I mean? And it always has been. But we got it from my uncle, who is a reputable breeder. Like he watches the pit bulls, and if any of them look like they're going to be aggressive, he won't sell them. He keeps them. And right now he's got like 40 of them. So every day when he comes home from working 8 hours laying brick, because he's a block layer, he spends hours cleaning out cages and feeding
I would imagine
his dogs, because he refuses to have them put down. And that's all the dogs that he has ruled are not stable enough to go to a family. And then he's got a couple that live in the house with him because they're good ones. He's been bit a few times because, like I said, sometimes these you get a crazy one and it's going to do crazy shit.
The thing that bothers me is the people who like keep breeding these dogs for these ridiculous aesthetic traits that make the dogs insanely unhealthy. Like what they did to like the
that's
British
why
bulldog,
the French bulldog. They have to have C-sections to have babies.
The ones their eyes are always watering because their sinuses are all fucked up, and like Great Danes, which are cool dogs, but like they live like 20 minutes because they're so like ridiculously big.
This is why when we looked for a new Pomeranian after my last goodest boy passed away, and he was like a 6-pound show quality Pomeranian. I mean, there's pictures of him. He is the black one with like the white mustache. We specifically looked for a bigger one because my little one, he had like luxating patella, and he actually died because his trachea collapsed. So he couldn't breathe. And that's something that happens with smaller Poms, So this Pom, even though all of his brothers and sisters and mom and dad were like 7 pounds, he's like 16 pounds. He's a throwback. That's also why he's white the way he is. Because the original Pomeranian was a 50-pound white sled dog. All the other colors and shit like that, that's from they bred them to be little and multicolored. But originally they were like Samoyeds, basically.
The Alaskan Eskimo dogs and Pomeranians are way too alike for me to differentiate. I'm not going to.
Oh yeah, the Spitzes.
They're
just a little bit bigger. The Alaskan Spitz, it's just a little bigger than a Pomeranian. Somebody did a Pokemon meme, and it had a Pomeranian, an Alaskan Spitz, and a Samoyed, and it was like evolutions. And the Samoyed was supposed to be the Pomeranian's final form, because if you get a white Pomeranian, Samoyeds are almost always white, and so are Alaskan Eskimo dogs. So you put them together, and it looks like they all look alike.
Steroids. That's all you did,
right? Or like I said in Pokemon, he fought enough battles and he evolved to the next form.
I just love terriers. I want a terrier dog so bad. A little fucking yappy, vermin hunting, vermin destroying asshole dog of a terrier. That's what I want.
Well, if you've got the time and motivation and you kind of hate yourself, I would suggest a Jack Russell.
Jack Russell.
Or now they call him Parson.
That's
Jack
a breed
Russells
off
or
the
whatever.
Jack Russell. That's a division or like a branch off the Jack Russell.
They're incredibly intelligent, but at the same time, mostly they don't give a F what in the hell you think
They're
about
hard to
anything
train.
they're doing.
Oh, they're clever.
Yeah, they're very willful.
My brother Brian had it was a Jack Russell Rat Terrier and something else mixed in. One day we had just come home with a pizza.
Oh
And
God!
we put the thing down on the table, and he starts freaking out at the door. I mean, like going berserk, which he doesn't normally do. So we had a big yard with like all kinds of trees and stuff. So we actually went outside, like, what the hell is he freaking out about? And when we came back in, he had pulled that pizza off the table and gone to town on it.
So he literally
tricked
you into leaving the pizza so
We
you
failed
could get it.
an in contest against the dog.
That's the first time I've ever heard of a dog pulling that trick on a human.
The great pizza caper.
Yeah, I mean that sounds like a Jack
when he
Russell.
died,
I
my
owned
brother
one,
buried a
and
pizza with him.
I owned one, and they are great little dogs. They can be, but they are stubborn. And then they want to kill everything smaller than
Yeah,
them.
we were concerned because there's actually a panther we know that lives somewhere close to my brother because he's in the swamps down in Hastings, and you see it every
Right.
now and then. It's never bothered anyone to my knowledge, but every now and then you like catch a glimpse of it.
Mostly they don't. And a lot of times if you encounter one in the wild, as long as you keep cool and back away, never turn your back on it, you'll be fine. Quick lead and folks. Hey, what's up, homie? How you
Drafting.
doing, bro? But
Links in chat, buddy.
Okay. Yeah. Links in chat. That said, I'm not telling you to go out and F around with it. I mean, but if you ever somehow against your own will happen to find yourself on a trail and one walks out, just make eye contact and back away. Because otherwise, yeah, you turn your back on it, it's going to get you. If you run, that's even worse because their natural instinct
their
is
prey
to chase
drive
things
kicks
that
in
run.
and they will chase you down.
And they will run you down. Even if they don't want to, it's nature.
Union rules. I got to kill the guy.
Well, I mean, yeah. I don't know if you ever saw those videos with the cats. And the cat's like, today my master locked me out of the room. I suppose he wants me to die. I shall stand at the door and sing the song of my people. Or I really think, and then the next one shows another cat, and it's like the guy's doing the voiceover, and he's like, I've been depressed. I think what I need is someone to pet me. I think I'll go to the human, but they don't call it the human. They call it the warden. I'll go to the warden and roll over. Perhaps I'll let him pet my stomach, and that'll make me feel better. But if he pets me more than 3 times, I will bite him, according to protocol. You know what I mean? It's like, according to protocol. It's like, what? And, yeah, it's like the dude did a cat video and a dog video, and the dog is always super
Oh my
happy.
God, my favorite thing.
Yeah, every dog is like super happy. I love you. Yay, you feed me. Yay. The cat is always talking like he's an inmate at a prison.
Day 56 of my rehabilitation, which is not working.
Yeah, my sister was going on one time. Oh, I wish dogs could talk. It's like, if dogs could talk, you'd want to murder them.
No. Hey,
there
boss.
would just be this endless litany of
boss.
stupid shit.
You want to go out? Boss, you want to give me a treat? Boss, you want to give me a treat? Hey, you want to go for a treat? I'll go for a walk. Can we go for a treat? Can I ride in the truck?
It'd be like that skit from
or
Family
Dexter's
Guy,
Lab.
when Stewie was like obsessed with
Mom,
Lois.
mommy,
And she's finally like, what? And he's like, hi. And then he runs off giggling. And it's just like, yeah,
Way
that
too
would be
accurate.
annoying. And that would be my dog. I know for a fact he would be chasing my wife around the house, just being like, Mom, what are we doing? Mom, can I have a treat? Mom. Walks, whatever. It's like, because he is a weird dog too. As soon as my wife jumps in bed, he will jump up on her and snuggle her. And as soon as she falls asleep, he comes over and lays next to me.
I've done my job. I'm good. I'm a good boy.
Yeah, it's like, he's like, I helped Mama get to sleep. Now I'm going to go over and hang out with Dad, And of course, I just let him lay there. But,
Piss off people.
He's a good one. Dogs are good. Oh, shit. You guys reminded me of something. The whole group got hit by the dragon's lightning attack, right? Hungar's character is carrying a small dog on in a little bag that he wears around his. And he's pretty attached. And they're all riding shaggy mountain ponies, too.
Yeah, that's not going to go well.
And it's 21 damage.
That
pretty sure in OSC, a little pony can't take 21 points of damage, or even half of it, which would be like 11. Because I round up because I'm that kind of asshole.
your animals are very susceptible to death.
Oh my goodness! I hope that the gnome illusionist weasel makes his save. That weasel's been with him for like freaking a year and 2 years.
Are you writing this down, James?
That would be sad.
Are you writing this down? You should write this down. That way you can pop it on them when they first sit down to play.
Oh no, I don't have to write this down. And I already told them the horses are going to have to make a save. So they already know that. But I just remembered, since we're talking about dogs, that some of them own pets. And that's going to be a bad situation for them people. Because, a weasel, that weasel has like 4 hit points. So, save or not, it's going to die. And well, the good news is it might have evade. So if it saves, it'll take no damage.
It'll happen again, honey.
If I get Big Dog to ride, Bruce will never kill me. Yeah, play a halfling and buy a riding dog. Like a big Saint Bernard, and you just kind of cruise around like that freaking dog from Labyrinth. Ambrosius, get over here. What are we painting today? Looks like a demon over there.
This is the new Reaper fig called the King of Hell, which, like, nomenclature aside, I like the figure. I just don't like the idea of, the King of Hell. No, which one? There's like a lot of them.
There's only one king.
Yeah.
Well, if you go into the Ars Goetica, there's a king, then there's presidents, counts,
Dukes.
Yeah, the whole 9 yards.
I get that.
Like the one from Hereditary, Payman, he's the president, and he's also known in the Goetica as the most loyal of the demon lords to Lucifer, because a lot of the demon lords are not very loyal to Lucifer, but Lucifer is the king of hell. But like I said, that's, getting into Jewish mysticism and stuff. Because even though it's probably not true, some people claim that the Lesser and Greater Key of Solomon, were actually written by Solomon. But in reality, nobody said anything about those books until the 17th century or something. So some people would argue that they have been passed down in secret, and it was just at that point that they were released.
I'm sorry. I've read a few accounts, and from what it sounds like, he started getting possessed towards the end.
Well, here's the thing. we talked about it shortly the other day. I don't think you were in the chat when we talked about the Tanakh, especially Judges, Kings, and Chronicles or whatever, is a constant series of great man rises, makes Israel strong. God loves him. Great man starts worshiping some weird demon, gets destroyed. Then everything sucks for a while, and then another. So you got like Saul, then David, then whatever. And that's just the whole.
But Saul was redeemed.
The whole book.
He saw the error of his ways. And then
Right.
you have, further tales where it goes into like others that followed after his promotions and after he became a disciple.
Well, no, I'm not talking about the Saul you're talking about.
I thought you were talking about Saul that turned into Paul later.
Saul of Tarsus? No.
Nope.
No, I'm talking about Saul, who was the king of the Israelites and tried to kill David. I mean, at first he loved David because David would play music for him and stuff because he had migraines. But then he got jealous of David's popularity and he started being an asshole. Plus, the prophet Nathan had told him when he went to war with the Canaanites to not only wipe out the men, but the women and even their herd animals. But then when he went and wiped out the army of the Canaanites, he kept their women and herd animals. And one of the things that the women did is they brought their religion with them. And many of the Israelites I guess it's a crass way of saying it, but they got booty blind. And they started agreeing to allow their wives to build idols.
How many of your friends went off to Japan and came back with a girl that was indigenous to the island? Come on.
Only one guy that I know, and I haven't spoken to him in a long time because I guess he's been really busy.
And everybody I know that goes off to Okinawa comes back married.
Yeah, and that would be him.
Even Max.
I haven't spoken to Max in like a long time. I mean, I know he's not mad at me or anything. It's just that, he's busy with what he's doing and I'm doing what I'm doing. So we just haven't crossed paths.
That's kind of how I view it.
Yeah. Well, we both know that what's her name keeps that dude busy. His wife
on a good leash.
Ninja.
She keeps him on a good leash, not a bad leash.
Yeah, but she keeps him busy. Because like I'll be talking to him and he'll be like, "Yeah, I gotta go mow the lawn. I gotta do this. I gotta do that."
And I've seen his house. I've Googled it before, and I've seen it. It's a nice home. I didn't expect him to move into a small home. Like I know people that have done experiments and they are not registered, but they're telepaths. They can read minds. They're really good at picking up on things, and they can actually, within 3 minutes, start giving a breakdown of people within the room. And they're kind of not fun to be around because they just pick up on shit. But like every one of those people I know, they always buy themselves like a 1,200 or smaller square foot house. And Max's house kind of qualifies for that. I'm like, no, he's not a telepath.
Well, the thing is, too, though, is that, the market at the time.
Yeah.
Like my daughter's house is like 900 square feet. And she paid more for it than I did for this house, which is 2,000.
And I'm not being derogatory to Max's house. I'm just saying I've seen his house. It's a very nice looking home. It looks like smaller than what I expect him to inhabit.
And I'm saying you're not being derogatory. It's just that when he bought his house, the way the market was, I mean, the price per square footage was insane. Whereas I lucked out when I bought this house. I got a veteran thing and all kinds. Plus, I put down a huge down payment, that I'd saved
Came
up.
on strong with that DP, did you?
Well, yeah. definitely like 20%. And my wife and I both have like well over 700 credit scores. So it was pretty simple for us. It was like, we want to buy this house. And they said, fill the paperwork out. We did. And it had the, how much are you willing to put down? And they did the credit checks. And they're like, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There was actually another person who had put in to buy this house like a couple of days before us. But it turned out his credit sucked and he didn't have the down payment, you know, and everything. So the seller chose us because they're like, all right. So yeah, we slapped it down. And in the last, I think my wife, she, I don't think, I know, she makes double payments on the mortgage. So she's basically paid off half of our mortgage in like 3 years, which she kind of mad at me now because apparently when you add my income and her income together, it pushes us into a really high tax bracket and they want us to pay them like $4,000. And so that means we have to invest into IRAs for write-offs, and we have to invest like $3,000 each, which will then bring our tax burden to zero. But that's $3,000 that's in an account that we can't touch until we're like 70 or whatever. So, and like me, she's a huge believer in taxation and stuff. So,
Right.
you know, I hope that bullshit they're talking about, that maybe they can just end income tax. That would be like
That would
my
be
dream.
fantastic.
That would be amazing.
I want to go.
And I love how people complain about what's going on. It's like, you know, that for the first 100+ years that the United States existed, the government was financed entirely
Yeah,
by
the
taxes
income tax didn't
and
come around until Wilson.
Yeah, that's pretty late, you know? So it's crazy. It's like, you're so mad about tariffs, but our country was literally founded on the idea that we would have tariffs on trade. That's how.
Yeah.
we
Plus,
would pay
all
for
these
things.
countries he's putting these tariffs on have either large tariffs on us or are doing other shit like currency manipulation, which is basically just the same thing.
Right.
Or they're subsidizing the crap out of their own industries.
I saw him. He was being interviewed, and he had the president of El Salvador with him. And that guy, boy, like I said, total Chad. But he mentioned that when he last time he was president, he was in Germany, and he asked Angela Merkel how many Fords were in Berlin, and she said none. And he was like, okay. So so last time he was president, he was already kind of pissed off because, I mean, we import Mercedes, BMWs, everything all day long. Those guys won't even allow one of our cars in the country. It's like, nah, get out here. What is the map behind you, Doc?
That is a reproduction of a late 18th century world map. Although there's some weird embellishments on it, like that, the Southern Ocean there, which wasn't a thing at the time and shouldn't be now. And just some stuff like that.
I think we should rename it to the Southern American Ocean.
Yeah, I mean, the Southern Ocean is literally like 50 miles around Antarctica. Why this?
And then we'll change the Atlantic to the Great American Ocean.
The Eastern American Ocean and the Western American Ocean.
Yeah, we'll just do West. Like, everything will be named after America in the whole world. Like, Greenland is getting ready to be renamed to Snowy America.
That sounds like some serious Office Space. Not Office Space. What's the other movie that everybody calls a documentary? The guy goes,
oh, Idiocracy.
That sounds like some Idiocracy shit right there.
Watch and see. Like, JD Vance went to Greenland to check up on one of our military bases up there and immediately fired the head general.
Well, yeah, she didn't honor the new president with having him proudly displayed on the chain of command photos.
So, I mean, These guys have barely been in office for
100
like
days.
3 months, and they are just freaking running wild in the streets. It's crazy. I mean, I voted for it, so I can't be mad if somebody's like, "Is this what you voted
my
for?"
God, yes.
I'd be like, "Yes, yes, this is exactly what I wanted." I want Elon Musk to go through our budget and find out who's ripping everybody off.
I'm not happy.
The Alaskan Strait, yeah.
We have renamed the Earth Planet America.
It's not your fault. You asked, you got your answer, and now we're joking around about the current thing because quick, if you don't joke around about shit, then you might
Yeah,
get
I don't want to
upset.
get upset.
Gotta have a sense of humor to be alive.
I'm not seeing enough arrests and people getting shot for treason yet, but we still have time.
We're getting there.
We're only 100 days in. Please be patient. I have no
be
faith in Pat Bondi. I have a lot of faith in Kash Patel.
Yeah. So we'll see. Lil Rubio's been kicking ass.
I'm so
Surprising.
surprised at him. He's really stepping up.
Like Lil Marco, that dude
Yeah.
has stepped up. I mean, but anyway, I mean, yeah. We'll see what happens. I mean, that's all you can do. And like when I was talking to my ultra lib friend that I game with every week and hang out with anytime we can, he was bitching. And I said, look, your guy won, and I dealt with it for 4 years, and now my guy won. And all you can do is deal with it for 4 years. All this violence in the street is stupid. When Biden was president, you didn't have a bunch of MAGA guys out in the street burning shit down. It's like the left has gone crazy. Well, I mean, the fringe left, not the actual Bill Maher type.
The actual left is kind of sitting at the table. And I mean by RFK, Tulsi Gabbard.
That dude from Pennsylvania that had a stroke and now he's like
Fetterman.
One of the most rational guys.
Fetterman is most improved. Reminds me of the story of terrible Terry Allen, who he was a general in World War I. He became a major general in World War II. And he got shot in the face. And his lifelong stutter he had, when he came out of medical, his stutter was gone.
And that's like Fetterman. Everyone was making fun of him because he had the stroke and he was all like, good night and all that shit. And then now you see him and he's like, I'm pro-America. I'm going to support whoever the president is as best I can if I feel like they're doing the right thing, And he's basically turned into a
martyr. He has.
And I love it. But I told my lefty friend, I was like, I don't know what you're complaining about. The Democrats won this election. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, every person there was a Democrat 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Trump, Gabbard, RFK. I mean, you know what I mean? They were all Democrats their whole lives.
I don't disagree with you.
And it's like, but now you're mad. Whatever. I saw this guy interviewing people, and it was so funny. They were protesting, and he's just walking up and saying, okay, so what exactly are you against about Doge rooting out waste and mismanagement and corruption? None of them could answer the question. And I'm like trying to, in my mind, and I'm not trying to be super political here, but I'm trying to understand the mentality of a group of people that are mad that people are trying to figure out how to end corruption in our government. Because you would think,
these are just
in like a normal world, that would be something everyone from every political group could be like, yeah, that's good.
All idea. They know is they watch their CNN and MSNBC and they hear they're Nazis. And
why,
that's
like
all they know.
Of the protesters are like AARP and older than James, older than me, older than you, Doc.
And they get
paid. They're protesting the Social Security stuff that's going on, which no cuts have been made. The only thing we cut was payments to people that were 120 years and older.
Yep. That pisses me off because my great uncle that fought in the Civil War, they cut his Social Security benefits off. So it's like, damn. I mean, granted, he's been dead for like 100 and something years, but still, that's no reason to take away. Yeah, I can't even finish that. I mean, it's like, yeah, and what corruption have they found? And it's like, have you not been to the Doge website? I mean, every time they find anything, they put it on the site. This is the most transparent government we have ever had. Anybody even walks within 100 feet of Trump with a microphone and he jumps that shit like he's trying to freestyle rap. You know what I mean? He's not afraid. He'll get up there and start talking all the shit. And it's like, okay. Like, I watch Asmongold sometimes. And like, one of the things he does is he reacts to Trump's daily press briefings that he does from the White House, the Oval Office. And surprisingly, Asmongold agrees with a lot of what Trump's doing, even though he is definitely a lot more socially left. But he pretty much agrees with, at least that's what he says. He's like, yeah, and then of course the people who follow him get mad and start calling him names and shit. And he's like,
Matt, we got a lot of friends down here in San Antonio that are waiting to find out if they have a job next year or next week.
Okay. As a combat veteran, I do agree veterans that need help. But if they had a job in like some administrative whatever that needed to go, then they need to find another job. And the good thing is they can claim veterans. What's it called? I claimed it when I applied to be a firefighter.
Yeah, you get points. Right.
Yeah, basically because they do all the points and everything being equal. If you're a veteran, you get extra points. And since I aced the physical and the written test, even though like 100 people applied for the one job, I was the only combat vet. So guess who got
hired? Plus your time in service counts towards your pay grade, which is nice.
It did too. And they gave me a special ribbon to wear in my dress uniform to show that I was a combat vet and served in Iraq and all that. So, I mean, like I said, if you look behind me, you can see my helmet right there.
Oh, nice.
That's my firefighter helmet. It took a long time, but the guys on my crew finally basically got their hands on it and gave it to me.
Sure.
Because, hey, what's up, Mr. Marine? Everything is hardcore. We are driving on. Painting some miniatures. Bruce is painting some kind of demon, and I am working on another
got
kind
over
of
on my demoness. Oh, you got Venger.
Yep, I need to shade his flesh blue and then shade his gray black. Because for some reason, Venger had like blue skin. But yeah, not only do I got the miniature of Venger on foot and on his nightmare, and I've got Shadow Demon, but I intend to use them in the current campaign.
The Shadow Demon and Venger would come out great if you're running a basic Greyhawk system. I don't remember if the kids ever went around Greyhawk or if it was a different realm.
I don't know. They never said, but at the time the cartoon was out, Greyhawk was the setting. But I don't know if the cartoon was in Greyhawk. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would have to rewatch a lot of the cartoons and like try and pick up the names of towns they had went to and stuff like that. It's not like they ever went to like Greyhawk City or anything. The city of Greyhawk.
Small towns, I felt.
Yeah, it was always little towns here and there and whatever. So, but I just think it would be like amusing, somewhat comical. I mean, I did the last time we were playing this game, Hungar was playing a human fighter, and he decided to fight with Warduke, and Warduke killed him with one shot because he had a Vorpal blade.
Ouch.
And rolled a nat 20 on the attack.
That's the end of you.
So it was like your head goes flying off. And then at that time, the only person they had that could bring someone from the dead back was a druid. So the druid used reincarnate, and he came back as a centaur. And then he was so pissed off because one of the other players kept wanting to ride him. So he retired that character and made the character he's playing now, which is Dwarf Fighter. They're not Tariff backtracking. It's all part of his plan. Everyone who thinks that he backtracked or folded don't understand the art of the deal.
He's setting up a situation where if you want to pay a lot, you can do that automatically. But if you want to negotiate, he is a deal maker. He's a deal maker in chief.
Right. Well, I mean, he ran real estate in Queens and in the 5 boroughs of New York. So, I mean, the first part of the negotiation is you slap your dick on the table and let everyone know that you can fuck them. And then after everyone figures out who the boss is in the room, then you start making deals. Like the whole world, when he said, I'm going to tariff the whole world, and did, that's never going to be forever. He's just letting the rest of the world know.
Half of them caved in a week.
How much they depend on us. And now they're all negotiating. I mean, Vietnam dropped their tariffs to 0. Boom, right off the bat. And we apparently import a shit ton of stuff from Vietnam. A lot of countries are like, yep, our tariffs are 0 now. Boom. You know, I mean, look at the list. Look at the list of countries that have came
basically
around.
China's the only
You've
major
got
holdout.
2 countries that are kind of being pricks about it, Canada and China. And Canada have come around since 70% of their economy is based on us. And China is falling apart. Literally, they are falling apart right now because they are an export economy. And if nobody's buying exports, you know, what do you do, right? So yeah, the thing you got to watch out for quickly is that mainstream media is a demoralization device. They want you demoralized. They want you to think that everything's going to suck, even if it's not. And they will twist every story and lie every way they can to do that thing. That's why you almost never except maybe Fox News. I don't know. I don't watch that stuff too much. But you never hear them talking good about the guy, even though him and Kid Rock and Dana White and Bill Maher, of all people, had a dinner and watched the Bill Maher interview when he talks about it. He said when he walked out of there, he couldn't help but like him. Not saying he agreed with him politically, but he's like, yeah, Trump is an ultra charismatic guy. When you meet him in real life, he's totally different. Like Bill Maher brought in a page that had every insult Trump had ever called him in like years. And he showed it to Trump and was like, would you sign this? And Trump did. He's like, sure. And they had a laugh about it, you know? And can you even imagine? We live in a time when Bill Maher, Kid Rock, Dana White, who's the UFC guy, and the president of the United States are all hanging out, having drinks and dinner. And the president is giving one of his biggest detractors a complete tour of the entire White House. And here's what's even crazier. Bill Maher, who's always went after Trump and been pro the Democrat presidents, has never been invited to the White House. Not by Biden, not by Obama, not by any of them. And then he gets invited, you know, thanks to Kid Rock, and he gets the full tour. And they're hanging out and bullshitting around and joking. And he's talking about, yeah, he said shit to Trump about why'd you do that? That wasn't a good thing or whatever. And he said Trump laughed it off and actually asked him about policy, like, what do you like? You know, and he was saying it was great. It was a unifying moment if people would let it be. Because you've got, like I said, one of the biggest detractors of Trump saying, you know, he's not that bad, really. if you meet him. He's really not that bad. And it's like, so, but yeah, if you don't hate the media, you probably don't hate the media enough. Even if you do hate the media, you probably don't hate them enough. These people are trying to use their communications to overthrow our republic based on feeding the mob, just like Rome, false information or half truths to get everyone pissed off. And I don't care who you are. I talked about this on a video and I'll talk about it again. If you're burning Teslas, that means firefighters are showing up. And that means firefighters have to deal with the chemicals coming off those lithium batteries and every other freaking thing, which means in 10 years, maybe 5, they're going to end up dying of some weird brain cancer or something, because it happens all the time. Literally, most firefighters die within 5 years of retirement, generally of cancers. So, yeah, if they catch you, they should put you under the jail. Because, I mean, some poor guy who decided to devote his life to being poor because firefighting does not pay good. I mean, I could have got a job as a plumber and made twice as much as I did as a firefighter, right? Is out there dealing with these chemical fires, you know, lithium and all kinds of heavy metals all over the fucking place because somebody wants to, I mean, they're not thinking about it, you know? They're just not thinking about who it affects downstream. And immediately downstream is first responders who are showing up. And even if you're in your bunker gear and everything, like I said, you're in your bunker gear, you're in the chemicals, you're doing your thing. Then you get out of the thing and you go to get undressed. Well, the first thing you do is pull the glove off. Now you got bare hand to pull the other glove off, which means all the chemicals are now in your shit. And that's why, like I said, I mean, one of the lieutenants I worked with, they had to cut his skull open and remove a tumor from the back of his brain. I mean, 2 of my battalion chiefs, within a year of retiring, died of cancer. I mean, one of them, my training chief, McAllister, who I loved and he loved me, died of kidney cancer. Just one day, he said he was in the bathroom and he went to pee and it come out looking like red wine. And he's like, yep. And apparently there's not much they can do about that shit. So, I mean, so these idiots aren't thinking about the effect all of this is having on, well, the environment, which supposedly they care about. But the firemen that show up to deal with their bullshit pisses me off. But then again, I kind of had a dog in that fight. So,
well, they're constantly like out, all but coming outright and calling for violence, and some of them have outright done so all the time.
Yeah. And I don't understand why any congressperson that makes a call for violence isn't immediately dealt with. You know, censored, fired, kicked out of their position.
Well, in a
whatever
same place
it takes.
it would be, but it's just that they've been in power for so long. So it's also like, because it's like the same thing, like, you know, you go on a site that has a political slant. A person who's like who's on their side can say the most outrageous, vile, disgusting things, and they're like, oh well, it's just righteous indignation. Whereas you say something that's just mildly snarky, they like, oh my God, what the hell is wrong with you? Oh. People just are completely blind when they see something coming from their own side.
Well, we did let the communists
You're
go
not wrong.
all the way in on the education system.
Yeah. But what you're saying, yeah, you see that a lot on certain discords. Like Exalted Funeral. They're the one.
Just lost your audio.
Anyway, Exalted Funeral, who are the U.S. distributors for Old School Essentials, their Discord is insane. I mean, I went on there once and somebody said something, and they were talking about Stephanie Sterling. And I'm like, who in the hell is Stephanie Sterling? And then they're like, he's a guy that, or she's a girl that, and I was like, do you mean Jim Sterling? they got freaking livid. They were so mad at me. So I told them all to eat a dick, and I left their Discord. I was like, fuck you guys. Because it wasn't always that way, but they got new management or new mods or something, and it turned into an echo chamber for weirdos. And it's like, damn.
When I went over to Midgard or Cold Press, first thing I got asked before I could even go in the server is, what are your pronouns? Yeah, go fuck yourself. I didn't last over there that long. I wanted to last there. I wanted to be part of that community, but then I realized that I'm good.
Yeah, basically anything run by a company I have nothing to do with now. I don't want to deal with their nonsense.
Well, and I made a video talking about it, how even if the owners of the company disagree with the bullshit, they're also terrified to not go along with it. So, because they don't want to lose sales, they don't want to have people, talking trash about them all the time. So we're in a situation where these poor people really kind of got to bend the knee or else. And, companies always submit to the people bitching. It's like as soon as somebody starts bitching about something, it don't matter if it's a little company or a mega corp. If you get people bitching, they're immediately going to jump to try and fix whatever it is. Because I don't know, that's just how companies are,
That's the new way of America. Like, we're no longer our fucking greatest generation grandkids. We're now the mealy mouth fucking test the wind direction before we open our mouth type of bullshit.
Well, yeah, maybe.
You and I are this chat is the minority for the most part. There might be a couple people here that are more left of center, but there's not that same spirit of Hellraiser that we used to have as Americans. And it kind of pisses me off.
I think it's coming back. The pendulum's going the other way. There's going to be a serious reaction, I think, probably with the Gen Zers.
Yeah. People might make fun of me, but I do have to admit, since you mentioned the word, I'm a huge fan of the Hellraiser franchise.
I really wanted to like it. Part 2 is where I stopped watching.
I've only seen the first one.
There's one that I recently watched. I think it's like Hellraiser 10.
There's 10?
Oh, there's so many Hellraisers, man. Forget about it. Bruce just issued me a minority card. You're already a minority, Andre. Someone like a couple of years ago decided that Slavs are minority people. I deleted it. I shouldn't have, but I made a whole video about how I'm a minority now, a POC, and people can't talk shit to me because of my Slavic blood and shit like that. And then I'm like, what? Boomer aged white woman liberal decided that Slavs were like people of color. It's like, really? That's kind of insane, but okay, whatever. I mean, I'll make fun of them for it, But I mean, my Russian relatives, they have never once thought they were people of color. That sounds like the shit that the Germans were saying in World War II when they were talking about how the Slavs were basically subhumans. So now the modern left is basically kind of saying the same thing about Slavs.
If you want to call yourself a pronoun, that's fine. Don't encourage me to do so.
Yeah, that's my thing. You can use whatever you want. Your speech is your speech right up until you start trying to compel me. At which point, like a goat, I'm digging in and I will not be pushed. And for those of you who don't get the reference, the thing about billy goats is if you grab them by the horns and try and push them, you can't. but
have
you
to
can
pick
pull
them
them
up.
all over the place because every muscle in their body is built for that. That. So it's like alligators, how you can't open an alligator's mouth, but you can hold it shut with one hand because the muscles that they use to open their mouth are super weak, but the muscles they use to clamp it down are really strong. So goats are like that. Yeah, I mean, if you want to be referred to or you want to put pronouns in your X thing, I'm like, whatever. It's
I
just
gotta
when
ask.
people start coming to me and being like, you have to call me this. And I'm like, no,
No, I don't.
I'm not doing it.
Anything for you.
Yep, I'm not doing it. I mean, I respect your right to be delusional or whatever else you want to be. Knock yourself out. Just don't involve me in it because I got other shit to worry about. Like I got family and some kids and shit, grandkids and shit. I ain't got time to worry about your bullshit. You're just not that important to me. That's the thing. These people that raise hell, it's like you're just not that important to me. Maybe if you're somebody I hung out with, I would consider your feelings a little more. But if I don't know you, then no hard feelings. I'm not trying to be a dick, but really, I got other shit to worry about. So I hate being called sir. Well, I mean, because I say that quickly because I have certain views on certain groups. And I think that it's a sickness, not a choice. So if somebody thinks there's something that they obviously are not, I would say it's delusional. Like if I were to tell you I'm a Boston fir tree, you would say I'm crazy as shit. And then I could say, but I feel like a Boston fir tree. Therefore, you shall address me as Boston fir tree.
Yeah, the other thing is they never want to like take it the step further. It's like, okay, let's assume, okay, you can just decide to be a woman. Okay, what about people who have this condition where they decide parts of their body don't belong to them and they cut them off?
Good sir from North Idaho.
What about this chick I read about? Like, there was some chick who like decided she was a blind person in a sighted person's body, and she got her SJW therapist to put bleach in her eyes. And well, I guess she is blind now, but is she, sane?
No.
And I remember reading a story about a woman who decided she was a cat. Puts on the ears and the tail, crawls around, hisses at dogs, and says she's a cat. Is she a cat? And if so, does she have human rights that cats don't have? Can she vote? Why, if she can? I thought we decided she was a cat. Where do you draw the line and admit you're dealing with a mental
I guess
illness?
there's a mental illness out there where people feel like they should not have limbs.
Yeah, people, they do that.
And then they
cut them
try
off.
to get rid of a limb. Like these people literally are like, my whole life, I've always felt like my left arm shouldn't be there. It's like, that's called being crazy. You are crazy.
Even if I thought my arm wasn't mine, I'm glad it's there.
Right. It's like, are you serious? You want your arm removed? That is some crazy shit. But
and it's basically the same thing.
Yeah.
It's all
and the issue is that people want to normalize it. And I don't want to live in their reality because I don't think their reality is actual reality. So, I'm not going to be mean to these people or abusive, but at the same time, I'm not going to be a part of their delusion, as I said. And if that causes them a problem, well, that is a them problem, not a me problem. Because I'll just go on and continue painting and stuff. And they can be mad. Weep in greater quantities, novice, as I used to say in Dark Age of Camelot. Right. Well, and you know what would be funny? If you had a kid that identified as a cat, like Doc was saying, if lunchtime come around, instead of giving him the school pizza, you gave him some fancy feast on a plate.
Yeah, here's some kibble. And
made them eat that. And see how quick they figure out that they'd rather have the pizza and be a human. It's so dumb. But yeah, we were talking about how I'm running OSC, and the group late last night, like right before we were going to end the game, rolled a monster encounter in the Yatil Mountains of central west Orth. And so what I do is I have players roll. And part of it is I was like, wife, I need you to roll a die 20 to see what you encountered. And then I told all the air players, if it's something really bad, don't blame me. She rolled. Right. And of course, she rolled a 19, which on the chart is Blue Dragon. Ooh. And the Blue Dragon strafed the party with its lightning breath, and the party's walking in file 2 wide. So 8 of them, which means that lightning bolt is hitting everyone. And I've already rolled it, did 20-something damage. And like we were talking about earlier, their dog is probably dead. The donkey, or not donkeys, the horses they bought are probably dead. Even if they made saves, because I mean, does a freaking horse have more than 11 hit points? I don't think so.
Depends what system.
Okay.
Depends how big.
Like, yeah, that's fair, because you're right. A knight's destiny.
If you've got like a little bitty Arabian light horse, I would say maybe between 11 and 15 hit points. And
these things are 1+1 hit die.
Okay, so Arabians. But if
so that means the max hit points they can have is 9. And the minimum damage they're going to take is 11.
If it's a Belgian, like one of those thick Clydesdale types, I could see one of those things having, in the system I run, like between 45 and 65 hit points. Because,
well, you play a big number system though.
But I also have exploding dice, so like I kind of
right. See, the dragon they're going to fight, it's only got like 45 hit points because that's what it has in this system. So, I mean, technically, the dwarf fighter in the group has almost as many hit points as a dragon.
How high of level is the party you got?
That's what Andre was asking. The party ranges from 5 to 7. It's got a warrior, 2 clerics, 2 rangers, and a thief acrobat, a fighter illusionist gnome, and a thief illusionist gnome. So it's a pretty good mix. And sometimes if my nephew shows up, it has a second thief acrobat. So, and their magic is not horrible. I mean, you know, they've been playing for years. So almost every single one of them has at least some magic item, you know, weapon, whatever, you know. I mean, I'd usually, unless, you know, I'm running a pre-written adventure, you know, I random it up and see what they got. If I'm running a pre-written adventure, then they get whatever's written in the adventure. And I don't know if you can see the mess behind me, but part of that big stack there is like almost every Goodman Games adventure ever written, because I love them. And my favorite one is called Something of the Ancient whatever. And, you know, basically there's like an evil spirit wolf that keeps eating people in this village. And you have to go into a tomb to get a special weapon that can actually kill the evil spirit, because it can't be killed any other way. But the tomb, of course, is trapped all to shit, deadlier than anything. But it's also got some really good magic items in it. One of them is a great spear that Nalbar has that can attack ethereal, gaseous creatures, etc. And if he chooses to do a pinning attack, he has to do a strength test against the creature, which it can't do like really big creatures. If he succeeds, he can pin it so that it can't escape to another plane or anything like that. And that's how they killed the wolf. Like when the wolf started getting low on hit points and would turn into gaseous form and go away to reform and come back in a week, he pinned that bitch down to the ground with the spear, beat it in the strength check, which meant the rest of the party just clubbed it like a baby sill, and that was the end of the. How did the algorithm throw me a figure painting channel? I don't know. If you've never painted figures, consider it like enlightening. Maybe you'll look at what we're doing and be like, damn, that's kind of cool.
Looks kind of fun.
Also a 3D printing channel, and also old men bitching about young people. Also, if you ever seen the D&D cartoon, you'll recognize this guy, which I painted.
Well, hold on. Let me bring out my brag sheet. Hold on.
Okay, I got to run, guys. I will catch you all later.
Be good,
Catch you
Doc.
later,
Oh,
homie.
good to see you.
Be good.
And if you remember the old D&D cartoon, then you probably remember
Well,
this guy.
Tiamat. Of course. You got, I mean, Venger and Tiamat were constantly at odds with each other. Like Tiamat was the number 2 big bad that they had to worry about.
Yeah.
I remember one time, though, they captured her in the dungeon of a castle. It was like a floating castle in the sky, and they captured them. Maybe you were looking for politics and stuff like that and heard me bitching about how I don't mind other people being delusional, but I don't want them to drag me into their delusion.
Captain Conway, are you out of Brazil?
Oh, yeah. Because the Brazilians made an incredibly remarkable car commercial that was based on the old D&D cartoon.
Yes.
And it pissed me off so bad because I'm like, well, if the Brazilians can do this for a car commercial, where's the movie? They did sneak those guys into the actual D&D movie they put out.
That movie sucked.
I would have rather had a whole movie with just the kids running around.
Just the kids going on their way out of the world and into the amusement park.
Yeah. I mean, that would have been freaking amazing.
I would have.
But yeah, if you want to, if you get a second, then you just look up Brazilian D&D car commercial.
Yeah.
The casting is freaking perfect. It's got Venger in there and all this shit. And then the DM shows up in a Jeep or whatever. Montanan. That's not an independent country. Montanan. My niece lives in Montana, though. She loves it, except she says the only thing she don't like about Montana is all the Californians that keep moving there.
Yeah, that's the problem I hear from my Oregon friends and my Idaho friends.
Yep. She said when she moved up there, you could get a house reasonably, priced and stuff like that. But then all of a sudden, Californians who had a lot of excess money moved up to Montana and just started buying up all the properties. Yeah. And now properties for houses and stuff in Montana are like out of reach for so many people. And so she kind of does not like Californians. She kind of thinks that they ruined her home.
They are cultural termites. I mean, not saying she's wrong, but and our good friend.
No, I'm not attacking Californians, but I'm just repeating what my niece, who lives in, I think, Helena, said.
Well, I mean, Six Nations said the same thing. He's from California, but he moved to Nampa, and his life used to be really nice, but now there's traffic there and a lot of California tags and plates on vehicles still. It's not the world he wants to live in.
See, we're lucky. We're so far from California. Most of them aren't going to come here. And also, we're actively hostile to Californians. So they don't feel welcomed here.
I really wish we were.
And like New Yorkers that come down here, they just go to Miami Beach. And, they leave us alone and we leave them alone kind of deal. And a lot of them, you would be surprised how many older boomer New Yorkers move down here and integrate right in. And the next thing you know, they're like freaking, they might have that Brooklyn accent or that Queens accent, but they're Floridians. And they'll even tell other New Yorkers, hey, don't come down here in New York, my Florida. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason we moved down here, and I don't want you down here effing it all up.
Oh, on Reddit right now, they're throwing a bitch fit in the New Braunfels subreddit because there's a bunch of signs that are put up every year. Don't no California, my Texas, right outside of town,
Right?
and it's great.
You would think it would be obvious, like if you are leaving a state because it's so jacked up you can't live there anymore, you would almost think the obvious thing would be not to do what you did that ruined the state you're fleeing. But for some reason, a lot of people can't seem to get that concept.
The refugee mindset is so weird because it's not just Californians that are doing this; it's Middle Easterners coming out of Middle East. Like we don't
Right.
care if you come over here and you look for like freedom and the ability to raise your kids. That's great, but don't turn this into fucking shitty Gaza Strip. Don't turn this into your shithole country of Qatar.
Right.
Hey, Bear's in the chat.
Huh. They're a link, mate? Yes, sir. For you, anything.
What the hell are you thinking? Building a house across the street from a German Shepherd breeder with a dozen dogs?
Oh, that must be musical at night.
I would be so happy. When I was a 4-year-old boy, my dog Harriet, she had her first litter of pups. And after a few weeks, Harriet let me play with the pups and she would go run off and the pups would stay with me. And I was the happiest 4-year-old boy in the world. There was no better life than you could ever expect.
Just hanging out with the dogs.
Oh, I loved it. And one day I was kind of sad because I was only counting 7 pups. We had 8. And Mom told me, yeah, one of the dogs went across the road and one of the trucks hit her.
Oh.
Yeah, that was my first encounter with death.
When I visited my mom, because my mom thinks she's an amateur zookeeper, she's got 5 or 6 dogs at least, right? Sure. And 2 of them are hounds. And hounds, oh my God, they will not shut up. So the whole time I was there, it was just a constant cavalcade of dogs chasing each other through her house, barking at nothing. And she's got a German Shepherd, a Pomeranian, a poodle, a couple of hound dogs, a big fat cat. Well, which I like the cat. I call her Babushka Cat because she's so old. But anyway, the point is, I was like, geez, I'm going to need a vacation from this vacation because you know what I mean? Because this is crazy, And I even told Mom that. I was like, Mom, every time someone comes to your house and says they need somebody to take a pet, otherwise they're going to have to take it to the pound. It's like you always do. And now you've got, 50 dogs, not 50, but 5. Because my mom is actually a saintly, good-hearted person who would rather spend all of her money taking care of random dogs that people drop off rather than thinking of them dying. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But my mom's always been like the best person I knew, A Shih Tzu. Those are cool. I mean, they're cool little dogs. I got Pomeranian, but my Pom's like abnormally big. He's 15 pounds. He's what they call throwback. It happens like every now and then a baby Pomeranian will be born and it'll grow and be like 15 or 20 pounds because the genes of their original breed dominate, and Pomeranians were originally big dogs. Well, 50-pound sled dogs, but still.
That's like the size of dog that Harriet was. She was a Keeshond, which is a Spitz style, small Spitz style dog.
Yeah.
About 40 pounds.
Yep.
Maybe mid-thigh, lower than mid-thigh.
Yeah, I believe if my history is right, and people can check me on this and prove me wrong, that what happened is Queen Victoria decided she loved Pomeranians, but wanted them smaller. And they literally did a breeding program to turn the Pomeranians into what they are, but somehow all of the original Pomeranians died out because nobody wanted them. So the original Pomeranian breed is gone, but we've got these little, and the American Kennel Association, they'll tell you you want a big Pomeranian. Their daddy looks like James's dog. Yeah. Mine, because he's a throwback, he's white, because originally that was the only color Pomeranians came in, was white. And they're named for the region they come from, which is right there on the border between Germany and Poland. So, yeah, the only negative I got to say about Poms, I've owned 2 now, is sometimes they get a bit yappy.
Oh,
Like,
Jesus Christ.
They will bark at the neighbors. Like when my neighbor across the street pulls into their garage, my dog will lose his mind. And I'm just like, why are you even barking? But he's having a good time about it, so I don't feel like being mean to him, but I do ask him what he's doing, 85-pound coonhound, holy golden retriever mix. Those are 2 good dogs because both of those breeds are really good with kids and families.
And not stupid. They're not stupid breeds either.
Yeah, they're both smart.
Yeah, they're not the smartest, but they're not stupid. I love Irish setters. They're beautiful, but fuck, they're as dumb as fence posts.
Irish setter has one facial expression. You're home. I love you.
Yep.
Quickly, I never owned small dogs my entire life. I was a cat person until I met the woman who became my wife 20 years ago. And she is a Pom person. I never, like when my Pom that we had for like 14 or 15 years passed, I mean, I've had actual human relatives pass that I didn't get as broken up about. Like, you don't realize how much you can love these little bastards. You know what I mean? And it's
James?
like, and my Phantom, the black Pom that there's pictures of on my site and whatever, he had such a weird personality. Like, he would walk into a room like he thought he was the king of the world. He never actually walked. He always kind of sashayed everywhere. Like, I always told my wife, if he's a human, he would definitely be a flamboyant gay man. Because that's just how he kind of acted. You know what I mean? He was very flamboyant. But he was a show dog. He was a show quality Pom. And man, when he passed, I had to get drunk. I drank a lot of Moscow Mules until I didn't cry, but I really, really wanted to. I'll be serious with you. And even though that is one of the 2 times a man can legitimately cry when their dog dies. But no, I just push all my emotions down. And that's why I see a therapist every month.
I had a Australian Terrier that was very smart. He was really able to pick up on tricks. He would pick up a trick within 15 minutes or less. You repeat it to him 3 times, he's got it. You'd have it down tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
But what he had, his fatal flaw was curiosity. And he started smelling stuff in the basement, found this nice little box with crunchy blue powder, tasty.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I still have yet to forgive Mom about that. And they hated that dog because if you showed him any like discipline and you weren't me, he got really unruly. He'd just start growling at you, and he wouldn't bite you, but he would like try to bark at you, snap at you, like, get away. I don't like you telling me these things. I want Bruce to tell me these things. Because I would bite the little shit. Once he started doing that, I'm like, no. And I made him bleed out of his ear once. It was nice. Had a mouthful of hair, but he was just a little 12-pound Australian Terrier. And that decon put him down completely. And I lost it. I don't mind telling people I bawled like a baby.
Well, you were young too, so
Yeah, I was 16. No, wait. I was 20 when he passed.
So yeah.
Yeah.
The worst is when people used to change their transmission fluid and leave the transmission fluid laying.
Oh no.
Because then animals think it smells sweet and good to them, and they'll drink it and it'll kill them dead as hell. So never leave your transmission fluid that you've taken out of a car laying about, or not
Yeah.
transmission, radiator fluid, radiator,
Yep.
because it will straight up just kill a dog or anything. It'll kill anything. So it's very, very toxic.
If you have a
But
neighbor who's
anyway,
toxic,
I
well,
want to comment on something quick Lee said, and that is whoever said they don't like little dogs, yeah, I would have agreed with you. And now I'm like, I love my little guy because, you know, my wife was like, hey, this is a dog I want. And of course, I said yes because I have absolutely no control over her and she just does whatever. And at first, I was not super thrilled to have a little yappy bastard running around the house. But within a week, I was addicted. I was like, I love this little dog, you know. And by the time a couple of years had passed, I literally could look at him and be like, I would die for you, you know. I mean, or kill for you. You know what I'm saying? Like if anybody ever hurt him, they wouldn't survive it. And that's just how attached I got to him. It doesn't see. And like I said, I'm a cat person. I always had cats. And and the one we have now, yeah, he might be dumb as a brick and a little yappy, but he's also like a little snuggle bug and he'll sit and watch TV with you. He loves to go for walks. I mean, he's just so good, you know. But I mean, dogs are awesome.
like I said, I'm a fan of terriers. They have enough tenacity. I won't want a Ratzer, a Schnauzer, a little Scotty. Those all look alike. They have different coloring, but they're almost basically the same dog. West Highland Terrier. Those all look alike to me, and I'd take any of them.
I like that guy that does shorts about dogs, and like he pretends to be God and an angel, and like the angel's like, so what's going on today? And God's like, not much. I was thinking about flooding the earth. And the angel's like, well, how about we just create a dog? And God's like, oh yeah, let's create dogs. That's awesome. And like in this one, he said, so here we go. And he describes a dog, you know, it's really smart, it's stubborn, blah, blah, blah. Jack Russell Terrier. And he says, a Parson Russell Terrier. And God's like, he's a parson? And he's like, no, they just named him after one. And they're like, they're going to be really aggressive and really brave. And God's like, okay, put him down. And they put him down. And the angel's like, hold on. You made him like 10 pounds. And God's like, yeah. And then they're looking down. They're like, he's fighting a bear. And God's like, well, to be fair, though, he is winning. You know, I mean, it's like, you know, and he does like, he pretends to be a dog. So there's like one thing when the mailman comes to your house and for the Pomeranian's sitting on the porch and he's like, you must kiss me. And the mailman like kisses the paw. And then the Pomeranian's like, now fuck off. You know? And I mean, it's just some guy, I think he's in Canada, and he does lots of little shorts and skits about all the different dog breeds. And they're pretty hilarious, honestly. Like the Chihuahua was invented by Satan.
I hate the Chihuahua. That's not a dog.
Yeah, well, basically, they were trying to design a dog, and Satan pops up, and he's like, hey, can I design a dog? And the angel's like, no. And then Satan's like, but I've got a religion now. And God's like, you know the rule. If you got a religion, you can design a dog. And the angel's like, fine. So Satan hands him the like manila folder with all the information. And the angel's reading it. And he's like, good, good. What is this shake nonstop? And he's like, oh, I just thought that would give him a vibe, you know? And he's like, okay. And what do you mean here where it says the rage of 10,000 men? And he's like, well, you know, and the angel's like, and what is a and the devil's like, Chihuahua. And he's like, oh, And then they, the angel's like, what do you think, God? And God's like, yeah, give him one. And that's how Chihuahuas came about. Back in the Iron Age, one of the common ways to challenge boys into becoming men in Europe was to put down their childhood dogs. Yeah, that's
a rite of passage.
Yeah, that's some shit the SS used to do. They would have you literally live with a German Shepherd, raise it from a pup, and then before you graduated, you were supposed to strangle it to death with your bare hands.
That's
because that would make you a man. No, that makes you a sociopath.
Well, yeah.
I can't be a part of any group that wants me to strangle a dog to death. I mean, all the other stuff is pretty bad too. I'm not saying it ain't, but the strangling the dog part, that's definitely where I say absolutely not. I mean, because there's no reason for that shit. Dogs love you. They're good. They look at you and they're like, oh my God, I love you so much. How could you ever be mean to a creature like that? I don't know. I'm soft-hearted, I guess.
I think it's great. I think they're an amazing creation. I think the fact that they teach you how to love unconditionally, and you'll never get to that point. You'll see it, you'll feel it, you'll never be able to achieve it yourself. But I think that's one of the neat things about living.
They'll die for you.
Yeah.
There's been dogs that have literally sacrificed their lives for their human.
We lived in the country, my early days, and I told you about Harriet. She had a couple of litters of pups. The first ones that she had, we kept the run to the litter. His little name was Ernie. Ernie was K-shoned and black lab. He was about 45 pounds at his heaviest. Not a very big dog. Really not big. But one day, one of the bulls was trying to mess with my dad because Dad was going through the pasture to get to the creek. We had a creek on the property that we would visit for just recreation and such.
Right.
And this bull got kind of pissed. And it started making aggressive movements towards my dad and the dog. I didn't know this. I was at school at the time. And that little dog, Ernie, he bravely stood his ground. And he made his hair stand up, which he was a curly-haired mutt. But whenever he straightened his hair out, he was like Shepherd Book from Firefly. He had a lot of hair.
That's a good reference.
And it was great. That dog, he wouldn't let my dad get attacked that day. He was ready to throw down with the bull. The bull decided.
You'll never find anything on this planet more loyal than a good dog.
I'm gonna go, guys. I'm gonna go eat my supper, but I'm gonna go. So have a good night. It was nice.
You have a wonderful night, Bear.
Hearing your lovely dog stories, they're quite lovely.
Thank you.
Take care, Bear.
Good night, gentlemen. We will see you.
But yep. I got one more tentacle to glue onto this beast, and then I'll show it to you.
Okay. I'm just grabbing it on a big ass base. I'm just grabbing minis and putting paint on them that I've got available because that's the predicament that I'm in.
I do that. Like if I put paint down to paint something and there's paint left over, I'll just grab a mini on my table that could use that color and be like, well, there's some red here. I'm not going to waste it. I'll just go ahead and stick it on this guy's shield right here or whatever.
You need to find a painter that does Warhammer that's close by. They got some Warhammer Ratkin.
Oh, Skavens?
And I don't really want to paint them up and fuck them up.
Yeah, when I painted up my Skaven, I primered them white and I put Gore Grunter contrast paint all over them. And then I dry brushed them with like Beast Steel Brown and painted the weapons. Yeah, that's one thing I think almost all humans can agree on is dogs are awesome. even if you're not a dog person, you still got to respect the fact that, I mean, it's the one animal on the planet that will sacrifice its life for you. Because a cat, if you die in your house, a lot of times a dog will sit there and starve to death next to your dead body because, you know, cat will eat you, starting at the fingers and the face. Because a cat will never love you. They don't know how. They're not even really domesticated, if we're honest. They just decided to move in because it was easier for them to get rats. And then we start feeding them and they're like, F it, I'll hang out.
I don't need a rat. He's giving me kibble.
Yeah, this guy's giving me freaking crunchy food and soft food and whatever. So I'm just going to hang out here with these guys. But it's not like a cat ever looks at you and says, oh, I love you. No. It'll eat you quicker than shit. Don't even care.
I've been attacked by so many cats.
And I'm not even trying to be mean to cats. It's just nature, you know? They're just a different kind of animal. But dogs, man, like there's a movie my mom had me watch, and it's like this guy in like, he's like a Neolithic caveman type dude. And he kind of somehow makes friends with a wolf. And he should have mentioned dogs, right? Well, Conan had an issue with dogs, though. Well, whatever they were, wolves. Like in the movie when they let him go and he's running across the plains and all those freaking wolves are chasing him, they were going to eat themselves a Sumerian. That's what was going to happen. But, you know, he ended up killing them and then making clothes out of their hides. Where is my other 90 millimeter base at? I know I have one. And this guy definitely needs it. So where did I put it? That's a good question. Probably gone a 60 mil pretty good too, but 90 would be more stable. Anyway, here he is in all of his glory.
Ooh.
Yeah, that is Nyarlathotep in one of his bestial forms. And here he is in another one of his forms. Nyarlathotep as the Black Pharaoh.
Are you going to be running Cthulhu in your D&D here lately or no?
No, but I got plenty of STLs for Lovecraftian monsters, and I can't help but print them bastards out. Like here is a flying polyp. These are the beasts that wiped out the great old ones. And then I've got some Shantax and Byaki and stuff like that around, some night gaunts. Now, some of them could be used in D&D as other things because, I mean, it's a flying serpent, you know, whatever. But some of them I think would be a bit like this guy would be an abomination, you know, it'd be like, what the? Now, if I were playing Lamentations of the Flame Princess and a mage cast Summon Monster, something like this could show up. Because you roll on the chart to see what the monster is like. So I agreed to let a guy that used to actually be a problem player, he eventually quit and was playing in Bubba's game for a while, have that spell. He summoned a monster, rolled the worst you could possibly roll ever. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And basically he summoned a 15 hit die gigantic dick monster. And when I say dick, I mean it, because on the chart of creature whatever, genitalia is one of the things. So you can summon a giant dick. And he did. And it immediately smashed him into little pieces because in that game, you got to roll to summon a monster, but then you got to also roll to see if you can control it. And you can decide what level within a range you want. But if you roll really bad, then the monster can be like much, much more powerful than you wanted it to be. And that's what happened. He was trying to summon a 10 hit die creature and rolled in that one, ended up with a 15 hit die creature. And then I'm like, okay, roll, you got to roll X amount of like features. So he rolled multi-limbed tentacled genitalia. And then he had to roll to see which genitalia. And it ended up being a penis. So he was killed by basically a tentacle waving, multi-limbed, weird giant penis. Could have been worse though. He could have rolled for a vagina. Imagine if it like grabbed him with a tentacle and just stuffed him in
Stuffed him right in there.
Suffocation.
Oh, but why do we have all these demographics saying we have Japanese viewers now?
Yeah, right. They're all like, oh man, no, this is not a hentai channel. Get out of here. I don't watch that crazy shit. I had a guy that used to kind of hang out and play D&D with us, and he introduced me to hentai one night, and I like stopped letting him hang out and told him I didn't want him near my kids.
But
Like
is it
he
really
put on
wrong
Legend
to
of the
do that?
Overfiend or some shit, and I was like, yeah. I was like, you like this? And he's like, this is pretty awesome, right? And I was like, dude, I don't think I want you coming to my house anymore, and I don't want you around my kids. Because no, this is some freaking serious pervo shit. Some demon tentacle monster doing horrible things to a bunch of like middle school girls. It's like, nah, thanks, no. Nope. But I guess some people would say I am a bit of a prude. Where is my really right there? Duh. No, that's sky gray. I don't need that. I need my really pale blue. There it is. Boom. What do we got here? Yeah. I did the blue wash on Venger skin, and now I'm going to do a very, very, very light dry brush with a very light blue on his face and his hands so that it picks out details better. I think here in a minute, I'm going to end the stream and try and convince my wife to take me out to the local tavern.
I don't blame you.
Well, they have a really good Cobb sandwich there. Or not Cobb sandwich, Cobb salad, duh. Their fish and chips is really good, but I don't order the chips. I order the onion rings always. And they have amazing onion rings. But lately, the last couple times I've managed to convince her to take me, it's been all about that salad. Cobb salad with roasted chicken and blue cheese dressing, please. And they make their blue cheese dressing homemade at the place. So it's pretty banging, dude. It's pretty nice. It depends, though. She's been working her ass off all day, so she might be tired and just want to veg out. But maybe I can tempt her by reminding her how delicious Shark in what's up, babe?
We're to the part where I'm going to need to get into your accounts.
Well, okay.
So at some point I need you off because you're going to need your email because I don't think you know.
Yeah, I was just talking about that.
Okay.
Actually, what I was talking about is
I've almost got our taxes done.
convincing you to take me and buy me a Cobb salad at the place down the road.
I'm thinking.
I know you're thinking. I said you may not want to because you've been working hard all day, but maybe if I dance for you, you will. I mean, later. I'll do the helicopter.
Oh, God.
With that,
Okay,
James,
maybe if you take me, I
Yeah.
won't dance for you later.
I'm feeling fatigue hit me a little bit, and been up since 11 p.m. So I will see all of you guys later. Thank you for being here today with me and James and Bear, and
Yep.
with Doc.
Yep, time to go do other things. But hey, Daryl, thanks for dropping in. We normally talk about everything, but we are, mostly we're old crotchety gamer nerds that play D&D and all kinds of miniature games. But every now and then we talk politics. But to be perfectly honest, I don't succeed, but I try not to get too political, mainly because I'm so tired. Like I'm going to end the program with this statement, which I've said before and I'll say again. When I was 27 years old, I played Vampire in a big LARP, 70 people at the local university, right? And I was really close friends with a lot of these people. Like I knew their astrological signs and all that shit, right? Their birthdays, whatever. But to this day, I can't remember how any of them voted, what any of their politics were, whatever. He never does the helicopter for us. Yeah, well, see, I'm a huge fan of monogamy and marriage. So sorry, guys. And I just honestly, I wish it could go back to that way where you could know 50 people and not know their politics or anything, because it wasn't constantly being crammed in your face all day. And I mean, and I'm not picking on one side or the other here, even though obviously I'm a Christian conservative, Orthodox Christian, but I'm just so sick of it. I wish people could like concentrate on other shit. There's like, okay, the election came, people voted, it happened the way it happened. 4 years from now, you'll get another shot. And until then, let's all just be cool. You know what I'm saying? But people don't want to do that. And it really kind of hurts my heart a little bit because it wasn't always this way. In the mid 90s, shit, nobody cared. I mean, we were more interested in chasing big booty goth chicks at the local goth club and, getting hammered and living like a bunch of heathens. Yeah, people say no politics, but then how do you talk about D&D 6th edition without bringing in the fact that half of the game has been molded by a set of ideological beliefs that you may or may not agree with? Like me, in my Greyhawk campaign, orcs will always be evil. It's not even a question. Orcs are evil. Drow or Dro, however you say it, they are evil. But, in some newer versions, that's not true because I don't know why. And I don't want to actually think about it. So, yeah, I'm going to go try to get something to eat, maybe put some clothes on. I got my Seth Skorkowski shirt, which, this guy's the weirdo. Dweebles, you don't want that guy. This guy right here, Jack. I think his name is Jack. He's the good player. He's the one that always brings the snacks, and he's a team player. And then the guy in the middle, he's just kind of there, being a goofball. So if you've never watched Seth Skorkowski, you should. The guy is amazing at explaining video games or role-playing games. Excuse me. But yeah, I'm going to get out of here. It's been a while. And I will talk to you later. You're left leaning, but okay. I'm Christian conservative. That does not mean I'm opposed to safety net programs for the elderly, orphans, etc. I don't think anyone, no matter how hardcore right they are, thinks old ladies should starve on the street or eat cat food. None of us believe that. I mean, surely some fringe leftists might try to tell you that. Oh, the right, they want old people to die, blah, blah. No, that's not true. It's just we want to make sure that everything is not corrupt, and it is obviously very corrupt on both sides. I mean, Nancy Pelosi's corrupt. Well, so is Crenshaw or whatever, the one-eyed dude. They're both scum. But yeah, of course, we believe in safety nets. Like if you get really hurt at work. I mean, what are you supposed to do? Sit on the side of the road and starve to death like it's Victorian England or something? No. We just, those like me, my brand of conservative, we just want to know where our money is going and that it's being spent correctly. Spending millions of dollars to make trans comic books for El Salvadorians, that's money that should have been spent helping out American homeless people. That's my issue. It's not that I don't think tax money should help people. It's that I'm totally opposed to all of this aid all over the place bullshit, right? We got problems here. And that's where I am on it. But otherwise, yeah, a lot of the people I game with are Bernie bros or whatever, voted Biden. It's like, I don't care, I'm here to roll dice. They know my opinion. I know theirs, whatever. I mean, the most leftist guy at my table is one of my closest friends. Yeah, part of being Orthodox Christian and conservative is you have to take care of your elders and you have to take care of like autistic kids and stuff like that. They're a gift from God. It's literally part of our religion to take care of people who can't take care of themselves. But it's definitely not part of our religion to try to teach Serbians how not to be misogynists. Because really, you ever been to Serbia? My brother-in-law's from Serbia, so yeah, whatever. But anyway, I'm ending it now. We interfere with foreign countries way more than we should. I'm just going to say that. Way more than we should. And peace and love to all of you. And God bless. Thank you for joining me for my Monday show. And thank Bruce for being here. And at least, no matter what our politics were, we could all agree that dogs are awesome. So, there you go. If you can agree with somebody 51% of the time, they're a friend. You know what I mean? You don't have to agree with people 100% of the time. Just a little bit, just every now and then. Just have a little compassion. Try to figure out what's going through the other person's mind, right? And then act accordingly. That's just the way to be a good person. But, and yes, Andre, you're 100% right. My brother Slav, my person of color, minority guy, because like I said, apparently being Slavic is being a minority person of color. That's so crazy. I